And welcome everyone to the final day of the Grenke Freestyle Chess Open here in Karlsruhe. We have Magnus Carlsen taking on Yakuboev Norderbeck in round number 8. The final position, the position for the 8th round is number 332. Magnus is 1 point behind the leader, and here we see handshake. And the game start. Maybe we can try to also quickly get the board, but guys, it is Vincent Keymer who is leading the tournament. He has an astonishing 6.5 out of 7 points. We also have Pranav, Buddy Pranav, who's actually in the joint second position here. He has 6 out of 7. Buddy Pranav is playing against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And what a chance he has to finish in the top 3 spots here. Just final 2 games here, guys. 3-3-2. And hello, guys, for everyone joining in. This is the last day, so do like the stream. There is a rest day here in the candidates, so we can focus on this tournament today. And the positions will get updated on the screen here. As you can see in the camera, Yakubov's knight is in the corner. Yes. I'll just refresh the board here. So you can see that the white knight is on h1. Both knights are in the corner of the board actually. The bishops are on g1 and b1, rooks on c1. So it's basically like in ascending order, the value of the pieces are increasing towards the center. So the knights are worth 3, the bishops slightly more than the knights. And then we have rooks worth 5 points, and then the king and queen in the center. The clocks have started. Yakuboev is thinking on his first move. Can we also get the camera of the leader, Vincent Keymer, who's playing against Alexei Sarana? And hi, Nehal from Temple of Chess. Wow. Some people are watching this final day from Mumbai, from Temple of Chess, guys. If you haven't been to that place, really nice place to study chess. But what will be the first move of Vincent Keymer here? Let me just change the board. We have a move by Yakuboev. We go c4. But let's see what Vincent plays. Guys, the idea of c4 here is that it opens up the bishop and it also opens up the queen. So c4 looks like a logical move here. No moves yet by Vincent. He's thinking this is a big game for him, guys. If Vincent wins this, he might as well just win the tournament with a round to spare. And Yatinanda asks, can other players come to the Vincent board to see what he's playing? Well, if they're playing with the white pieces, they first have to make their move because you cannot get up when it's your move on the board. But, you know, after a few moves, you can. And you can see Buddy Pranav there actually already walking and doing exactly that. But no moves have been made yet. He's curious to see what Vincent will play here. Vincent has been the star of this tournament. He played against Magnus yesterday. It was a very exciting clash. Buddy Pranav takes on Maxim Vasharlagraf. We can also try to get his camera on the board once to see how Pranav has played. And he plays f4. Wow. Buddy Pranav starts with pawn to f4. Unlike the other players who started with pawn to c4, Yakuboev, Yan Nepomniachtchi, all of them started with c4. So it's so funny, guys. Board 1 and board 3 pe they started with c4, and board 2 and board 4 they started with f4. But the concept is the same. You want to open up the bishop in the corner, and I guess f4 also kind of prevents black from getting this pawn to e5. And now it's Maxim who is thinking. Here. So, क्या crazy matches है today. By the way, I completely forgot. On board 3, look who's playing against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Can we have the camera of that board? You won't believe. And here you can see Buddy Pranav, by the way, on the screen here, who takes on Maxim Vasharlagraf. But on board 3, we have another Indian player who's playing, and it is Leon Mendonça, who takes on Jan Nepomniachtchi with the black pieces. And look at this. Leon completely locked in, wearing a super nice Goan t-shirt. But here he needs to bring the Goan spirit to the game because he's taking on one of the best players in the world, Jan Nepomniachtchi. Pawn to c4. What to do now? What to do? I guess you can play c5 and ask White, what's your plan if I just mirror your moves? A move like e5 looks quite logical, but it can be quite a bad move in many cases because White can now even play a move like c5 and then b4 to just gain some space. I think White can even play pawn to d4 now actually. And if pawn takes d4, the queen jumps into d4, hits the pawn on g7, keeps an eye on the pawn on f7. Oh, this looks like a good idea. And then to even get the Maroczy setup with pawn to e4. So after c4, Leon Mendonça is thinking. Actually, none of the black players have made a move besides Abdusattor of Nordirbeck, who has played after f4. He played c5. So here, Nordirbeck's game, he actually responds with pawn to c5. Counter opening up his bishop on b8. Okay, we'll now go back to the top board, the board of Yakuboev and Magnus Carlsen, because this is the board which many of you want to look at. Yakuboev, a very talented player from Uzbekistan, takes on Magnus. Mavud, ¿cómo estás? Estoy muy bien. ¿Y usted? They all come with their own opening prep, so maybe they won't risk copying, says Mark Spector. Yes, I do think that everyone has their own unique perspective of thinking. So we will get fresh positions just a few moves after the starting position. And Chandan Kumar says c4 looks better than f4. I somehow tend to agree with this because I feel like after c4, you have also opened up your queen. So if black plays a move like d6, queen a4 check can become a problem to the black king. And also d6 kind of also restricts your own bishop. So I like this move pawn to c4. By the way, Buddy Pranav versus MVL के game में we have a move And it is c5 played by MVL. Hmm. So MVL goes for c5, and this is a very big day for Pranav. If he wins, if he wins this game, he's actually in contention for the first place. Pranav, I think, is playing on board 3 or 4. He's actually playing on board 2 because we have some fixed boards here. Magnus plays on board 1 and Vincent plays on board 5. So let's try to have the camera of Pranav as well. You can see Magnus, by the way, who is focused there, and here is Pranav. Guys, Pranav is absolutely fearless. He has won strong open tournaments before. He has won Fujairah. He also recently is coming off a win of a tournament in Kazakhstan. And Maxim won't be underestimating his opponent. And you can see here Duda, Yakuboev, all of the players looking at this opening where black plays pawn to c5. Let's try to guess what Pranav will play here. We have a question. Can white play f5 here? He can, but I feel like after f5, the bishop on b8 becomes stronger because here you can see that the pawn on f4 restricts the bishop. So maybe f5 is a bit too early. Maybe we can try to move a pawn, like it can, no, it go d4 here. Maybe not, yeah, because then I guess black can consider c4. And then our knight on a1 can't really come. The bishop is blocked. So d4 is not such a good move. Maybe we can go c4. I like this move c4 because in 2 moves we have opened up both of our bishops, and maybe black can play f5 and we somehow get this funny little symmetry going on, and maybe d4. No, d4 in general doesn't seem to be a good idea here. I guess knight b3 makes sense, and then if black goes d6, then we can push d4. Uh-huh. So I think f4, c5, c4, guys, is the best move according to me. I think we will see f4, c5, and c4. That's my prediction. The game's just started, guys, in the 8th round. The players will be taking their time in the starting first moves because the starting moves really decide how the game is going to turn out to be. By the way, no moves yet by Magnus. Magnus is still thinking, but in the game of Vincent, the Alexei Sarana seems to have already made a small inaccuracy according to the computers here. After f4, Alexei Sarana plays pawn to d5. Guys, and Vincent has quite a big advantage now apparently if he plays the move pawn to c4, and it's crazy. Can we have Vincent's camera right now? Oh, by the way, this is such a nice camera angle here. Such a nice design here where we can see Leon's camera. We can see Buddy Pranav's camera. Vincent is there. And finally, we can see Magnus, who just made his move pawn to c5. And as I was saying, this move pawn d5, which was played by Alexei, not so good because c4, if you chop the pawn, I chop with the rook. And if knight b6, guys, can you guess white's next move? It's it's out of nowhere, basically, this move for white. What can white do? in this position. Guys, it is the move rook to d4. And now suddenly the black queen almost has nowhere to go. The knight actually has to go back to d7. And this is, of course, very bad news because otherwise the queen on d8 is simply trapped. And that's why after f4, d5, c4, the engines are saying any move, even knight b3. Somehow this move d5 might be blocking its own bishop in the future. And white has, and c4 played. Vincent has found the best move in the position. Pawn to c4. Vincent has found the best move. Can we go to his camera? I mean, in the main, in the big screen. Wow. Pawn to c4 by Vincent, and his position is already quite promising. Guys, freestyle में कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. Come to the game, you just make one move. Like Alex, he just made one move, and his position is kind of dicey.
Wow, Harshit, what a crazy turnaround on the move. Second move, white has an advantage.
Hi, Soumya. Exactly. It's absolutely like mind-boggling that you play just a like simple looking move like d5 and now c4. And do you know the point I was just showing? If dc rook c4, if black plays knight b6, there is rook d4, and the queen is in a pickle.
Yeah, I see. I saw your, I was watching the stream. So I saw this rook d4 move that you showed. It's pretty cool. I see that black can go back knight d7, but pieces would be super cramped once
Yeah.
we do that. So that's the reason white seemingly has a big advantage in this position. What was black's mistake? Because not too many moves made, yeah? Maybe first position itself is not so easy for black to handle.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this might be one of the positions which is quite favorable for white to play. And many players actually responded with this move pawn to c5. And then we were kind of, by the way, there is some issue with the cameras today because it says like no signal
Hmm.
somehow.
So let's
So
bring the
let's
other
see.
camera, maybe, or
Yeah,
yeah.
let's see what we can do with that. But c5 was generally the move that was being played. And then I was looking at c4 to open up the other bishop as well. And somehow it's just easy to play with white. And this time, I think after c4, you can see Alexei's reactions here. He's generally someone who plays very fast. But after c4, he has gone into thinking mode here.
It takes on c4.
Oh,
That
what?
move has been made.
He takes?
Yes. Rook takes.
I don't see it yet.
No, I saw him make the move on the camera.
Ah, yes, he takes. And somehow, guys, I don't know what's happening with the camera today. विवेक भाई कैमरा उनके तरफ से हो रहा है क्या?
So can we keep it fixed on maybe Vincent's face, or it keeps
But it's AI,
transforming?
yeah. Yeah, we can maybe we can keep Magnus's camera if it's the one. By the way, here you can see
It takes on c4.
he takes
Harshit
on
rook
c4
takes
with
on
the
c4.
rook, and this has happened, Soumya. Like it's if if Alexei plays a move like e6 here to bring out his queen to f6. This is completely losing. White to play and win. Oh my goodness. He goes for a move. He goes c6, I think.
E6, maybe F5 would be the move, Harshit, I would
Bishop
consider.
c5 simply. You bring
Bishop
out your
C5,
bishop.
and there's no knight on G8 to block the rook, which we
Exactly.
usually have in standard chess.
This is just losing an exchange. And I think after rook c4, if I'm not mistaken, c6 was played by Alexei. But this is a terrible position for black because after rook d4, you have to go queen c7, Soumya. Vincent Keymer might become a champion with a round to spare in just 1 hour.
It's unusual position here actually to begin with, because I just thought to ask a friend, Stockfish 18, and it says that after F4 on the first move by White already has a 0.6 advantage, no matter how black responds.
Yeah, I think c5 or f5 would have been a slightly more solid approach, but here Alexei going for a riskier approach with d5. But against someone like Vincent, I think this might not be the best strategy. As you can see, Magnus quite surprised by Black's choice there. I think he knows Vincent has a huge advantage. MVL also looking at this top board encounter between Vincent and Alexei. Guys, Vincent has half a point lead over everyone else for the ones who are just joining in. Winning this game will make him the champion almost.
Yeah. So let's try to decode why White has such a big advantage here. We have one extra piece developed, that's not much. The rook is on c4. All our other pieces are still where they were at the starting of the position. As Harshit is highlighting, the bishops are already opened up. While Black's bishop on g8, not yet open, the bishop on b8 blocked by our pawn on f4. So even though it's open, its scope is limited. And white brings one more piece into the game.
Oh
So
my
white has a
God.
huge development advantage already. And
And
that might be
Soumya,
the reason.
can you play knight b6 here? Like in general, I just see this concept of let's say rook d4 and then knight f5. It's just checkmate.
So the dark squared bishop not being on f8 makes the g7 pawn extremely vulnerable.
This is looking, this is getting from bad to worse for Alexei.
How about a move like f5? That is impossible, perhaps. But let's consider it. F5,
Arey f5,
opening
can
up
you
the
please?
bishop
Ah, okay, okay. You wanted to go here, but somehow rook d4 and
to b4,
you
queen
wanted to attack the rook. So I first attack your queen. You move the
right,
queen.
to a5, supporting the f5 pawn, and
Knight
knight to
comes in with a
b5.
tempo, but also some tactics with knight f5 first. Guys, if rook f5, what's the move? White to play. Why is white winning? Why is white winning?
I think it's a two-move tactic, which chat needs to find. Chat, let's see. Hello, Nehal. Maybe you can answer this question. You are in Temple of Chess. Maybe you can find what's the issue for Rook F5. I don't believe it is E4. Chess Pune. I don't believe it is E4. You need to take advantage.
E4, he will just go back with his rook somewhere and black is up a piece. So you have just sacrificed a piece. You need to do something direct.
You need to take advantage of the fact that the only piece that defends the rook is the queen. So if you deflect her from the fifth rank, you will win the rook with your bishop. Bishop
Yes.
f5 might not be the move, Nehal, because you have given up one piece already for the rook and pawn. And with bishop f5, queen takes f5,
Yes.
you would have given up two pieces. Not the best move.
But Rajkumar and Chess Pune finds the right move, pawn to b4, deflecting the queen, which defends the rook on f5. The queen drops back somewhere, and we now simply chop the rook on f5, being up an exchange and a pawn. White is completely winning here, and after knight g3, Vincent Keymer has already gotten a huge advantage against Alexei. It's just 4 moves in the game. Oof.
Let us have a look at how Magnus is doing, Harshit, because he has chosen a completely different approach. He went for c4 in the beginning, c4 followed by c5 by Magnus, and his opponent goes bishop to e4,
Let's have a look
developing
at this game.
the bishop very early.
C4, C5, bishop E4, Yakov with a very primitive idea of attacking the pawn on B7. But I think the deeper idea is that after queen C7, the queen blocks the vision of the bishop on B8. And maybe this is what Yakuboev is banking on. And what is this Magnus's camera? Vivek bhai, that has been just stopped. Okay. Yeah, it's back now, but somehow uh, the camera is a little glitchy, guys. But okay, we'll try to focus on the games. And after bishop e4, no moves yet. So Magnus is considering whether to go queen b6, whether to go queen c7, or perhaps maybe even rook c7. But rook c7, I would not even consider.
I think queen b6 is the move that comes to my mind, Harshit, because I want to keep my queen active. I want to keep the bishop's path open. Yes, I block the square for my knight to develop, but it can come out from c7 as well.
Yeah, but then this move, I think Yakuboev is banking on this move, queen to b3, because if you take, you can't play this move b6, which you really want to play, because this knight on 8 is falling. Such an
Yes,
unusual idea by white, going bishop to e4. And let's see Magnus's reaction here. How does Magnus feel?
he has not been feeling his best in Grenke so far, Harshit. Like he's been taking huge amount of time. We saw him feeling a bit tired yesterday.
Oh,
And
look.
in fact, he gave
Oh,
an interview saying he was
Soumya.
feeling very
He
hot.
did like this right now. He was like, please come, like, don't make so much noise. He looked at the like spectators maybe and he did like this.
Yeah, I think he's not feeling his best. I mean, the maybe the noise from the spectators. He also mentioned feeling extremely hot inside the playing venue, even though you mentioned that it is 15 degrees, pretty pleasant outside, but not feeling comfortable enough, Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah. By the way, we have a question by a producer. By I have a what approach shall we have playing 960? Trans like should we transpose to normal chess or stick to basics, development and keeping pieces on key squares? You know, Soumya, I actually think that it would be a mistake to try and transpose chess 960 positions to typical positions because we miss out on many key resources or key ideas in doing so. Here, for example, c4, c5, bishop e4 in general is quite unusual for classical chess. But here, because the black knight is on 8, we can immediately take advantage of this and go bishop e4. And you can see Magnus there. I don't know he's looking away from the board. What's happening there?
Probably doesn't like his position too much. Let us try and understand. Bishop e4. Let us see if queen b6, queen b3 really works out well for white. Because what if I go bishop e5, Harshit? That was an idea I had in my mind while suggesting queen b6. Not immediately, but queen b6,
Oh, sorry,
queen
sorry, sorry.
b3,
Yeah. Queen
and
b6,
bishop e5.
queen b3, bishop e5. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a very decent idea. But do you feel somewhere that if black plays bishop e5, he kind of says that like I'm ready, I'm fine to enter an endgame with equal material and you being a tempo up. I kind of feel like maybe this can be in White's favor, yeah, if he can play for two results in the endgame. Or
But
do you
what to
think
do?
it's too early, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's too early. You have to just face the position on the board and find the best way. The other move you were suggesting is queen to c7. It is
It's sad, yeah?
it's not a move I would like to make, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree. Because it blocks the queen here. And I think
It,
that's why Soumya wanted to refrain from playing this move. Guys, Magnus is thinking after bishop e4. But I personally am just very curious about Vincent Keymer's board, Soumya, because another move, g6, has been made by Alexei.
how many pawn moves in the opening are too many pawn moves? All of Black's moves have been pawn moves so far, Harshit. All four of his moves so far. And they all have been preventive moves. C6, preventing the queen from getting blocked on the d file after rook d4. G6, preventing knight to f5. And what about the knight on h8? Where are his future prospects
Yeah.
once you play g6?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem somewhere is that the knight on h8 cannot come in the game from g6. The white knight was able to come to g3, threatening moves like knight f5 here, and that would have threatened checkmate in many of the cases. So black goes g6, and now, this is one of the exact, like one of the positions which really highlights what I wanted to say yesterday is that we have a short-term initiative here. And for everyone joining in, whenever we have a short-term initiative, we really need to bank that advantage in by doing something direct. And here, that's why somehow the move like f5 or just trying to open up the position makes some sense to me.
From white, f5 from white.
Yeah.
Yeah, f5 is a fantastic resource here. What is it that you want to do, Harshit?
So f5, I was a bit afraid that maybe he can take my knight on g3. But after hg3, I mean, black gets rid of the only active piece in his camp. Bishop d4 can come in next. Yeah, the more that I think about it, f5 does look like a strong move here. If you play f6, somehow, what is black doing? All of black's pieces are still on the last rank.
F6. Oh my God, come on.
Yeah, what?
Come
Yeah,
on.
this is too much,
F6.
yeah. But how
Uh,
to bring this bishop in the game?
let's see. So F5, I would love to have my bishop on G7 instead of B8. So maybe I go bishop E5 first, forgetting about the bishop on G8 and knight on H8 for now. I first want to reroute my bishop to the A1 H8 diagonal.
You want to play
Bishop,
bishop d4 somehow.
bishop E5 I want to play
Oh, sorry.
after
So
F5.
after bishop e5.
Not a good move
Mhm.
because of queen b3. And I think that's the problem because I attack b7 while defending b2. And now a7 pawn is also under attack because I moved the bishop from b8. Oh no, queen b3 might be a blunder. Let's ask the chat. Queen b3, why is it
Oh
a
my God.
mistake?
Oh man, that's such a good question, Soumya. Wakey wakey. Good morning, guys.
Oof.
Yes, exactly, Nehal. After f6, bishop c4 incoming. Yes, the bishop on g8 opens up. You can't do this. So after bishop e5, I guess rook e4 is interesting. No, but then you take my b2 pawn.
Rook b4 maybe, Harshit. The rook can move to b4 if...
I think we should just give up this pawn. Go knight b3.
Mm. And trap my bishop after d4, huh?
You take my pawn. I just simply don't care about that. I might just jump in with my knight to c5 as well. And white just has so much initiative. Yeah, queen b3 coming in next, attacking the bishop on b2. All of white's pieces are in the game. None of black's pieces have been developed yet. So, guys, after g6, I have a feeling Vincent might just push his pawn from f4 to f5. Let's go, Vincent.
5, a great suggestion here. What are white's other options? Is it the best move? Or does white have good enough options?
Let's
Mm,
try knight b3 to see, to understand what happens to the advantage. Even knight b3 does retain the advantage, but it drops a little bit.
because it allows f5 attacking the rook with a bishop
Hmm.
and
Good point.
blocking the fi idea forever.
Yeah, so I think black is the one who wants to play f5 now after g6. And that's why before black gets the chance, we should pounce on the opportunity. But Indians think there is a better move than f5. But I think f5 is good enough.
Mhm.
F5 should be good enough. But can we go to Buddy Pranav's game as well? We actually have a lot of interesting games going on, Soumya, in this round. Because Buddy Pranav takes on Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. And Buddy Pranav seems to be having an advantage as well. Let's go.
So what e5 has been
So
MBL's
f4,
response?
he started with. MVL got c5, knight g3 by Pranav, f5, opening up the bishop, c4, and now we get this uh, pawn on f5 being attacked twice, and e5. Maxim sacrificing a pawn?
Wow. Knight to f5. What is his idea? Let's see. Knight f5. We want to even take on g7 with a check. Let's calculate some lines here. If I take on f5 with my rook and sacrifice an exchange, takes, takes pawn on f4, threatening queen h4. Would that
Maybe
be a
now
decent idea?
queen c2, and then I'll just do a switcheroo.
Queen h4 followed queen h4 check and I prevent you from castling.
I give here, if you take my pawn, I just do a switcheroo.
Hmm.
And now suddenly the black king has been exposed. White is up material. And when you sacrifice material, you generally should have something concrete or a lot of initiative or activity. But with black pieces on the last rank, I don't think black has either of them. And that's why after c4, e5, knight f5, maybe black has to go g6.
Too many ugly moves need to be played by black in this particular setup.
Yeah, if
G6, knight
here
G7, by the way, traps the knight. Let us
Yeah,
show
if you
that.
go here, which looks tempting, guys, but just king to f7 and your knight on g7 has nowhere to go. You have to drop back with your knight on g3. Black can regain material balance by taking the pawn on f4, and then knight to e4 hits the pawn on c5. This is a way to play this position. However,
E7 maybe.
queen e7, and this kind of keeps going on somehow because white can then go knight b3, developing to attack this pawn, and then
F4.
d4 next.
Every move is a tempo. But
Every
okay,
move
let's
is good.
see. Let's see this b6, d4, and d5. So maybe black is not as much worse.
Where?
यहाँ पे b6, f4, d4 and d5 was my idea.
d5. Oh my goodness. What is happening here? Yeah,
I
this is
think
quite tense already. I can already see so many variations that both players need to calculate. Okay, let's just drop back a little bit. So after f4, e5, one option for white is to take the pawn on f5, as we just saw. The other option for white is also to just play the simple move f takes e5, right?
f takes e5, allowing white to play f4 himself.
Yeah, black goes f4, but then we go knight e4 directly, and we saved so much time. And now the
Hmm.
c5 pawn is falling. This looks really promising for white. So what if for just fe5?
I believe he's going to sacrifice the pawn. f4, knight e4, bishop e5, and play for
Oh, but this is
compensation.
almost losing for black with d4.
d4,
And just
d4.
take with the queen. Knight jumps into d6.
d4 is a very strong idea. So we don't care about the c5 pawn, but we want to open up the position as soon as possible so that our knight can get an amazing spot on g6.
So I guess here, yeah, Buddy Pranav, in my opinion, should just simply chop off the pawn on e5. And I think he has a very good position. Guys, he's on 6 out of 7. Pranav, who defeated Nihal Sarin yesterday, is actually in great shape to have a podium finish here. He needs to defeat French number 2 player Maxime here. Won't be easy, but I think he has a good position to do that.
Okay, let's go to Magnus's, no, Vincent's board, Harshit, because a couple of moves have been played. Rook d4 was chosen by Vincent, not f5. So rook d4, queen c7, and maybe now f5 is still possible.
Still f5, huh?
Oh, he goes f5, huh?
He
No?
goes.
No, no, it's a move you played, I guess.
Yeah, I just tried to analyze here. But you can see Vincent is thinking, he is locked in. I saw Vincent with his family yesterday, was having a evening stroll just to, relax himself and be in a good mood. And he's about to make a move. Will he play f5, guys? That's the best move in the position. Vincent, okay, he's about to play a move.
Yeah,
And
I feel he's
he
looking at f5.
he has his eyes on the prize here. The prize is 60,000 euros and a spot to the Freestyle World Championship in Weissenhaus. Pawn to f5 will give him a big advantage. And Queen 64 square says,
f5
happy to
played.
see. He plays it.
We've played on
Boom.
the board. And black's pieces simply don't have enough squares to maneuver. Knight on h8 cannot come back. Bishop on g8 is blocked. Bishop on b8 is blocked by his own queen. Knight b6 is the only developing move you can make immediately in this position. You can't even long castle because the white rook controls the d5.
And he goes f6 immediately. Wow. Actually, Alexei Sarana realizes that he is in a difficult position, and one of his best chances would be to play fast and put pressure on Vincent's clock. And yes, Queen 64 squares. Harika is doing well. She drew against Levon yesterday. Um, I saw her today. She said she's enjoying the format. It's a bit difficult playing 2 rounds a day, but Harika is playing some good chess here. And Arjun Erigaisi is not playing in this tournament. I think, guys, there was also a lot of uncertainty happening in the world, especially when you were traveling from India. So maybe that was one of the reasons he might just have wanted to take some rest. He will be playing in the Tipe Sigmund Cup in May alongside Magnus Carlsen. So maybe he's getting ready for that big event. And right now, oh, knight b3 played. Another good move played by Vincent. He develops his knight to b3, wants to jump to c5.
Almost feel a little bad for Sarana, to be honest, Harshit. Like to get into such a mess for no fault of yours, to be honest. I mean, maybe the first move is where he needed to spend a little more time, but after that, he's been making the only moves at his disposal. And white is making normal moves, right? F4, F5, knight b3, rook d4. Not very difficult moves to find. Of course, good full credit to Vincent that he is making these moves, but the position itself works in his favor.
Yeah, no, actually, Vincent has been in top shape, but uh, Vincent has been in excellent shape. But I do think that Alexei Sarana got a little unlucky with the starting position as well. This position seemed quite difficult for, and you can see there, he's like, "Kya karu main?" And I just glanced over the engine, and the best move is B6, Soumya.
Oh,
Like, can you imagine like black having to play B6 and then look at this pawn structure that black has? Oof, this looks really bad.
b6 with the idea of preventing knight c5. Maybe that is white's next threat here in the position. Knight c5, knight e6. Bishop takes, pawn takes. If I mean, instead of b6, let's say we go knight b6 in that position with black,
Mhm.
which is the developing move we can make. Can white go knight c5?
Absolutely. You're spot on right with your intuition, Soumya, because now white wants to, just grab control of the e6 square, put pressure on the d7 square. You cannot play knight f7 now because knight e6. And if you play queen e5, guys, white to play. What a beautiful position on the board. Oof. Yes, exactly. Anime, Anjani, Ali Shanli, exactly. Knight G7. What a beautiful checkmate here with the rook controlling the D line and the knight giving that important check. So after knight B3, Alexei decided to go rook D8, and this is the live position.
A natural reaction. You want to exchange the rook on d4, which is causing immense problems for black in this position. So rook d8, a very human move there. By the way, we have Neeraj in the chat. Hello, Neeraj, who
Let's go.
uh, creates a lot of fun clips for the ChessBase India Clips channel. And he's saying there's a new shot out on the Clips channel. So guys, do check that out.
Mm-hmm. Let's go. Yes.
One of the, I saw a really nice reel as well on the ChessBase India Instagram page yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which the title of the reel is Chess is Beautiful. And it shows how different types of people are enjoying the Grenke Chess Festival.
Oh, wow.
There are some old players playing in the festival. There are some young kids playing, people with different hairstyles, and it's a very nice reel. Maybe people can see that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that sports, has the ability to cross all boundaries and all religions. And I think tournaments like the Grenke Chess Festival, where we see people from all different parts of the world and all of them enjoying through their common love for the game. So that's super nice to see that here. By the way, Rook D4, Rook D8, and Vincent is thinking here he does have a very good position. Do you want to quickly check on some other boards, Soumya?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Magnus's game on the side. I think Magnus seems to have got a decent position as black, so I'm curious to see how he handled this game. He opened with his opponent opened with c4, c5, and bishop e4. We were looking at this move, and queen
Mhm.
c7 chosen by Magnus.
And
White played
G4.
g4 here. A bit bold, but it also prevents f5. And the idea is to go knight g3.
And
You
at
could
some point, bishop back to G2.
so fianchettoing the bishop, keeping it on the long diagonal.
So G4, knight B6, knight G3. And this is the live position on the board here. So far, does look like pretty good for white, no?
Yeah, yeah, maybe the reason why it's okay for black is you can get d5 at some point, I believe. So let's see if we can make d5 work.
So let's say D. Okay, now I think we are attacking. So let's say F6.
Mhm.
And if you go D3, then yeah, D5. And black is actually doing quite well here.
D5.
Very nicely spotted there, Soumya, that black uses his bishop on G8 to kind of just immediately grab control of the center. And we have, noticed this that whenever we play, opponent makes a move on the flank, you want to respond with moves in the center. And that's why
Yeah.
this idea of d5 does seem to be quite strong. So knight g4, knight g3, f6, maybe white needs to do something direct.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if f6 allows knight f5. Is that a move, Harshit? Or you
But
go
then
g6?
g6, yeah, g6. And whenever we give a check, the knight gets trapped with king f7. So knight g3, I do like your suggestion of f6, Soumya. I think this might happen.
Yes, because you don't want to go e6. I mean, that was another way to play d5, but you ideally don't want to go e6 because it blocks your own bishop's path later. That's why you want to play f6 instead so that you open up your bishop. You're also attacking the pawn on c4 when you place f6, and then you threaten d5 as well.
I agree. I completely agree with that assessment that f6 is superior than the move pawn to e6. Only four moves have been made and he takes on c4. What?
Oh, we
What are we
have
missing here?
yeah, we are missing a very simple tactic,
Oh,
a one move
wow.
tactic here. Rook takes c4. Chat, I'm sure many of you can spot it. Rook takes c4. What is black's idea?
Can we get Magnus's camera quickly? Because I want to see his expressions here. Knight takes c4. Yakuboev, did you see this? It's so easy to miss this because if you take on c4, guys, what's the move?
Yes,
Exactly.
Kevan
Kevan
Verma,
Verma, Naman,
Namaste.
Anjani. And if you take black does have pawn to f5, double attack, boom and boom. Man, Magnus just chops the pawn on c4. And what will Yakubov play now?
Knight
Anjani,
C4. Very easy to miss.
yes.
Because as HNH anime says, rook c4 d5, but d5 was not possible because there is no piece supporting d5. Usually, a move like rook c4 d5 you would never miss. That is the usual tactic in standard chess. But f5 is something that's easily missed by us because we are not used to having the bishop on g8 in these positions.
The engines actually still thinks white has a decent position here, but I think already Magnus has managed to achieve what he wants, to kind of get a chaotic position and rely on his superior calculation and intuition to play the game. By the way, we also have Karthik Venkatraman on the screen here, but I think he's playing in the Open A classical segment. So we won't cover his game, but it's good to see him on the stage here. He has been playing some good chess recently. Buddy Pranav is still thinking after e5. Maybe it's time for us to check the game of Leon Mendonça, Soumya, because
Yeah.
Leon is taking on Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Leon
And
has also managed to get a decent position for black.
guys, look at what happened in this game. C4, C6, F4, F5, knight comes to G3, hits the pawn. Leon defends with G6, bishop D4, hits the knight on H8. If you go knight F7, bishop G7. Oops, bad news. So Leon is like, no, no, no. Let me go E5 and sack a pawn. White is like, thank you. And Leon is like, but I had something planned. Queen jumps into H4. And after castles, Queen D4. So some nice maneuvering by Leon to be able to capture the pawn on E5. But I do think that White has some small initiative. But I think you're right. Leon is doing okay.
Yeah, I love how he has handled this position with black, a difficult position to begin with. And he found this pawn sacrifice. Usually, when you are positionally worse, look out for pawn sacrifices, exchange sacrifices. These are the typical ideas our brain should automatically look out for. That is the way we get some balance back into the position. So I really like the pawn sack. Then this queen h4, queen d4 maneuver, beautiful geometry there. Queen h4 attacking the h2 pawn. So you need to defend it. You go short castle thinking, yes, I saved my pawn, I'm a pawn up, but queen d4 check.
And you
And
win
you
the pawn on
attack the
E5.
e5 pawn while giving a check at the same time. So very good piece of calculation there by Leon.
Yes, I think Leon should be happy with the outcome of this position. He did have to invest some time in order to come up with this kind of creative idea. But if he manages to get out of the opening unscathed, I
Oh,
think he will be
oh,
having some chances.
Harshit, he could even win a pawn here, actually. We completely missed the b2 pawn. The b2 pawn is hanging as well, after which the knight on a1 is attacked. You move the knight, and then I pick up the e5 pawn. So black will
Yeah,
be a pawn up at the end of
you
this
take the pawn.
time.
But you kind of need to evaluate whether allowing this knight on b3 for a pawn is worth it, right? I think that would be something that black would need to kind of measure, because now after d4, we can kind of see white quickly getting e4, and this knight on b3 will definitely be useful as it can jump into c5, hitting the pawn on d7 and b7. So queen d4 check, and after king h1, I personally would be a little scared to take the pawn on b2, but maybe we should. Maybe we should take the pawn because we would at least have a pawn in compensation for our pieces not being active.
Or do you want to attack the knight on f4? That is another possibility here. Actually, it is a dynamic position on the board with lots of possibilities for both sides.
Yeah, f4 is
And you
also
know
a
what my
move.
point is, Harshit? After e3, I have queen takes b2, but yes, queen takes b2, e takes f4, blundering away
Ooh, such a nice
this
tactic
tactic.
here. If you take here, guys, a very nice disco check, and boom, after you take on g6, you just win black's queen. So queen d4 check, Yan is thinking Leon has decent chances to kind of survive the opening because I feel the with the kind of starting position we had, Soumya, it's all about survival.
Unfortunately, yes.
Because look at, like, I can't show the evaluation bars from all of the top games, but I have to tell you that in the top 10 games, almost all games made, White has, an advantage.
Yes, I see. For our chat, there are eval bars on the bottom of our screen. Pranav has a +1 advantage already. Duda has a plus 0.6, which was the advantage White started with in the beginning of the game. Vincent has a plus 1.2 advantage.
Oh, let's check
Plus,
his game.
so for the chat, +1 advantage मतलब एक pawn up की तरह आपको एक advantage मिल जाता है. Material के हिसाब से +1 by engine is 1 pawn up. तो बहुत ज्यादा advantage मिल गई है white को पहले 5-6 मूव में.
Yeah.
There is also Nodirbek's game that we can go to, Harshit, after a while. He's playing
Mm-hmm.
Gata Kamsky on board 6. एंड वहां पर भी व्हाइट को बहुत अच्छी पोजीशन मिल गई है. अगेन द सेम पॉन स्ट्रक्चर f6
Just
g6.
1 second. Let me check. Oh, wow. Norderbeck actually is a very scary player in freestyle because if he is in a good shape and his like intuition and everything is working well, like if he's in a top shape, he is actually someone who can come up with extremely creative ideas and survive these kind of difficult positions. Already, you can kind of see that compared to other players, he has managed to at least get some sort of a fresh position. He has a fresh approach towards the position.
But yes, can we go back and see how they opened the game, Harshit?
So f4, c5, and then knight b3, b6, knight g3, f6. So instead of going f5, Yakuboev is more constrained and goes f6, c4, and now e5. So he's trying to go for some interesting setup here. Knight f5, g6, knight comes to h6. Wow, this is a bit strange by Gamsky. After ef4, he takes and goes d4. I mean, even Gata Kamsky, guys, for the ones who don't know, he is actually one of the legends in the world of chess. He has played in the candidates tournament before, if I'm not mistaken, and very, very strong player from the old times.
Yes, against Anand in Chennai. The match happened in
Wow.
1993. So, yeah, he was world top 10. He's also a lawyer. He took a break from chess for about 7 years and came back and won the World Cup, which is one of the most fascinating stories of chess for me. That how can someone be away from chess for 7 long years, come back and win the one of the strongest tournaments in the world?
Bishop e4 and bishop e5. This is the live position. Kamsky does have, somehow from the starting position, I feel कि draw भी किया black ने, so it's a good result.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and that is a danger in the freestyle chess position sometimes that there are certain positions जहां पे white की पहले मूव से ही एडवांटेज आ जाती है. Even the game against Sindarov, no, not Sindarov. Sindarov is the man of the moment, but he's not playing here. Shamsuddin Wakidin के साथ जो मैग्नस की गेम थी in round 3, I believe.
Yes, e4,
Uh,
d5, e5. It's French-like setup.
I remember Magnus said that after his first move, I already had an advantage in the game. And e4 d5 was a very natural decision to take because the knight was on a1 in that position. और इसलिए आप सोचते हो कि e4 d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5 के बाद white doesn't have knight to c3 because usually the knight is on b1 in those positions. Unfortunately, black was already suffering after the first move.
Yeah, and this is one of the positions. And if we go to Vincent Keymer's board and camera, this is one of the games which is a prime example of how black's position is difficult. You can kind of see black's last move was queen to c8, Soumya. He moves his queen from c7 to c8 simply to cover the square on e6 and open up the bishop. But now you can just say that all of black's pieces are on the last rank, and it might even seem like it's a new freestyle position. But in fact, it's actually black who's trying to rearrange his pieces, and white is simply much better here.
Yes. Oh, let's see how white can capitalize on his advantage here. Does he need to make forcing moves? Can he simply castle right now? How about short castle? Is that a decent move to make here, Harshit?
Yeah, short castle is a very good move. Just tucking the king in the corner here. King is very safe. And after that, you can start playing e3, queen a4, and white is just doing really well here because where will the black king castle, यार? इधर तो जा ही नहीं सकता है, रुक ही नहीं बचा है. And if you try to go to g8, it's very difficult to move the bishops because if you go bishop d5, it will be kicked with e4. If you go to f7, where will my knight go? So castles is a move that I really like from white.
So basically, it's as if black is playing a piece down here because if you develop the knight at the moment, then it is hard to get the bishop out and castle.
Mhm.
And if you develop the bishop, the only square it can go to and not be attacked is to f7, and then you cannot move your knight on h8 for a really long time.
Exactly.
Ah, well, one of the ideas for black here could be b6, knight moves back, and e5, trying to get some breathing space for myself. But b6 might be met with knight to e4.
Yeah. And now I guess the point is that e5 won't work because after I take the pawn on e6, the f6 pawn is going to be attacked way too many times. And this would be completely winning for white. So queen c8 castles. It's not so easy for black to untangle his position. I mean, maybe he can play knight c7 here, but it's unclear what black wants. I mean, I guess white can still respond with just something like e3. Okay, e3 is not the best. Maybe black gets b6 and c5 here. Okay, so b6. Why not b6, c5 immediately? b6,
Yeah.
knight e4, c5.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that seems to be a reasonable way to play. Let's go bishop back to c3, I suppose.
Yeah, and then knight c7.
Oh, maybe even e3 is decent actually because it yeah, okay, let's continue with this. Knight c7.
And maybe something like e3 here. Oh no, but e3, knight d5. So
Oh,
bishop
I
c2.
wanted to b3 actually, just saving my bishop after knight d5.
Yeah, but at least it black developed some of his pieces. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I
So
do think that this idea of b6, c5 is going to be what black is relying on if white makes the move short castles.
mm-hmm. And the other way to play against b6, c5 would be to go bishop to e3, threatening bishop at 6. So maybe that's a more forceful way for white to play. White goes knight. White moves back the bishop to e3 voluntarily,
Hmm.
anticipating b6, c5.
Wow. And also, Soumya, the point is that in some variations, I can, if knight b6, I think I can highlight it, bishop h6, and now the rook is forced to go to f7. But whenever your rook goes to f7, the bishop on g8 loses access to the e6 square, which means that we can now jump in with a knight to e6. And this is just, I guess black can even stop the clock here because it's equal material and white has a plus 3 advantage. So this just goes to show how dominating white's position is.
Yeah, I think bishop e3 a fantastic move because the bishop was blocked by the pawn on f6. So why not reroute it to h6? Now, if black plays knight f7, preventing bishop h6, we have knight jumping to e6. So it is hard to suggest moves for black here.
Yeah,
Really, it's getting
man,
harder and harder, in fact, with every move.
just look at Alexi Sarana. Yeah, I think we can kind of understand who's better by looking at Alexi Sarana's face here. He is not happy with his position, and look at Vincent. You can see he's getting excited here. He's leaning forward in his chair. He knows he's very close to winning this Grenke chess festival. Soumya, this would be huge. You know, he has won this tournament before, the open section, when he was very young, and to now play in this open tournament and to win with Magnus being present. Because in the start of the tournament, do you remember? Everyone is like Magnus will win for sure, for sure. But it is Vincent Keymer who's actually giving Magnus a run for his money here by performing exceptionally well.
Absolutely. He's making no mistakes here. He's finding all the good moves. Yesterday also, he gave the game between Vincent and Magnus, definitely one of the best games in this tournament. And he really pressed Magnus to the edge. And when Magnus fought back resourcefully, put pressure on White instead, Vincent found the way to keep the perpetual and make a draw without getting bogged down by Magnus' pressure on the board. बिशप
Yeah.
e3 बिशप e3 के बाद इतनी डिफिकल्ट हो गई है ब्लैक की पोजीशन b6 might be the only move here um because you don't want the knight to remain on c5. b6 knight goes back and you know knight c7. Oh yes, he goes for b6, knight
Mhm.
goes back. And once more, it is hard to suggest moves for black. So it's almost as if with black, you're surviving this move. And when your opponent makes the move, you start thinking once again.
Yeah. Al- Alexi Sarana just needs to make sure that he survives one move at a time. But I don't know how many moves that's going to be, as after b6, white is ready to put back his knight to e4. By the way, one position where actually black has a huge advantage is between Aryan Chopra and Fedosiev. Soumya, let me draw your attention to this game, board number 7, actually. And Aryan Chopra is on 5.5 out of 7 points. So he is in a position to get one of the top prizes here, and he's better with black.
White's last move seems to be a mistake,
So
actually.
let's just, quickly go through the opening. Oh, he also goes for this idea of bishop e4 and g4, like Yakupoev and Magnus, knight g3, e6. But I think Magnus had come knight b6 and knight c4. So here knight b3, knight f4. And white could have gone for e3 and then something like f4. He goes d4. But what a powerful move by Aryan Chopra, f5. And I think his idea is that after gf5, ef5, if you take, he wanted to do boom. And here, check. King has to go to d2 and queen f4 check. And you win the bishop on f5. What a nice move by Aryan there.
Yes, very alert. Knight on f4, really powerful. In fact, you can go to g2, you can go to h3 if you would like, and it's
Bomb.
controlling a lot of crucial squares around the white king. Yeah.
Bomb move. Pawn to f5 here. Bishop came back to h1.
इस
I'll remove it
माहौल में
now.
ये sign करना is a bit ironic, but okay then. Bishop comes to h1.
And now white captures the d4 pawn. And then knight b6. I don't know why engine say why it gives a mistake. It's the best move in the position. And Aryan might upset Vladimir Fedosiev, who's considered to be a very strong player in this format. And then Aryan moves on to 6.5 out of 8. Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think knight b6, why would it be a mistake? I'm
No, it's
still
the
trying to
best move.
understand.
This
Ah,
it's strange why it says it's a mistake. It's the best move in the position here. And somehow White's bishop, which started on b1, has ended on h1.
yeah.
But
So black is voluntarily giving up the g7 pawn, if we notice. It
if
is,
you take here, I think he just will take the pawn on c4.
let us try to understand. Queen g7. Why is it okay for white to give up this pawn, for black to give up the pawn on g7? Queen g7, knight c4, or bishop on g1. Maybe that is the main issue in white's
Yeah,
position. It is completely blocked. If we play f3 to develop it, then what happens to the other bishop, which is now on h1?
yeah. And I think you are absolutely right that the bishops on h1 and g1 are actually a big problem for white. It's not so easy to get both of them in the game. And after queen d4, knight b6,
Can we go
Fedosiev.
up? Can we just continue that line a bit, Harshit? Queen
Yeah.
g7, knight c4. I was looking at a move like knight to f5
Mhm.
because
Oh yeah, if I
if
take
you
here, the
take,
g8 knight falls.
I
Mhm.
don't believe that this is as bad for white as it looks, but maybe there is a tactical
But
difficulty.
maybe bishop takes c4.
Hmm.
And then I'm not losing the pawn on f5. And maybe I just want to trade the queens. And white has invested way too much time to put his bishop on h1. And as you were mentioning, the bishop on g1 is also a problem. So Aryan, for the minimum, is better, but he actually might even, get significantly better if things go his way in the next few moves. Um, Someone, I don't know who opened the door. Okay, it's fine. So 24 knight b6, and Aryan is doing well. Do you want to go back to one of the top? Oh, we have a lot of moves on the Vincent board.
Mm-hmm. Let's
Oh,
go.
so bishop e3, b6, knight e4 played, and bishop d5. So we have always been saying that, Vincent is better, he's better, but Alexei Sarana is fighting well. He's not made any big mistakes from after move one, and he's still in the game.
So he found bishop d5, a move we did not take seriously earlier. Bishop d5 attacks the g2 pawn in certain variations. Whenever the knight moves, black can take on g2 now.
Yeah.
Um, and bishop d5 also allows you to play knight f7 next.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the drawback. You know, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, look at the drawback of your opponent's last move, and that will give you an idea of what you can do for yourself. Knight came back to e4. So now white will find it difficult to play e4 himself. And that's why bishop can come to d5, not bothering about the pawn push to e4. You also create a room for your rook to g8 in case of bishop h6. You've also allowed your knight to come to f7 on the next move.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe knight c e4 or bishop at e3, one of these two moves. Not the best ones by Vincent, but he still retains a big advantage. So I'm wondering, how do we go about it?
I mean, I think we can just castle, right? We can tuck our king in the corner, and then we can even reroute this knight to c3 to attack the bishop on d5. So the problem is that if you go knight f7, just
Hmm.
developing your knight to f7, preparing castles, I think knight to c3 and your bishop doesn't have anywhere to go. And
Hmm.
whenever we move the knight to c3, let's not forget that the bishop on b1 opens up, and then the pawn on g6 is under attack. So that's why after knight e4, bishop d5, maybe Vincent can just castles. And I will say that Vincent just should start playing a little bit quickly here, because he does have
Yeah.
45 minutes left,
Yeah,
and
he
he
is going
does
to
play
castle.
castles. He
Oh,
plays it.
did you see, for everyone who's wondering how to castle? Vincent just showed it to us. He did not touch his rook, only touched his king and brought it around to g1.
Yeah, he makes this move king to g. He takes his king and moves it to g1. Short castling there by Vincent. And
So,
Alexei Sarana is not at the board yet.
so in freestyle chess, the king can jump around its pieces.
I'm not, yeah, I mean, I think because in this castling, the rule is a bit special because the white king went from e1 to g1 here and castled itself. So on board one, Vincent Keymer, right from the get-go, has had an advantage. By the way, I am getting slightly curious about the game of Buddy Pranav,
Mm-hmm.
because look at the time consumption
Aye.
by Buddy Pranav here
Four
after
moves.
f6 e5, which we saw black goes g6, and Buddy has 34 minutes left.
After only four moves played in the game. I think Buddy told himself ki it's okay. As long as I solve this puzzle, I can play the rest of the game as if it was a rapid time control. But let me find a good move over here. He seems to be uh, having an issue with a particular move. We looked at f4 ideas, right, for black over here, Harshit.
Yeah, f4 allowed knight e4, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why g6 is a very strong move
Mm-hmm.
by MVL. I was afraid of d4, but I think what MVL wants to do is go for this idea of knight to f7.
Knight f7. Oh, wow. You don't care about the c4 pawn. So you want to develop your pieces as soon as possible. I
Yeah,
think that is a common theme of all the games we have seen so far in this round, Harshit, that we are focusing on piece activity more than material, because black's position is already a bit passive to begin with.
and I think this was the key idea of the position, to go to do something like very unique, like knight g3 and g6, which MVL found. And now Pranav is thinking this is a big decision for him, whether to go d4, whether to just simply give up the pawn on e5 with a move like knight b3. But it does attack the c5 pawn. But Pranav needs to make a decision because he has already spent 1 hour of his clock in this position.
Yes, and humanoid. wrote that found the right move for the first time. I believe he's speaking about short castle in Vincent's game.
Let's go.
And it's fantastic. And I think this is a really good way to improve. So many of you are watching the stream to simply enjoy the game, which is great. Some of you may be watching to improve your game as well. So for those of you who are doing that, guessing the move before the player makes them is a very good way of improving our chess while watching a live game. And in fact, this is the most preferred way of guess who? Vishwanathan Anand. He recommends this way for improving as a chess player. So you can do that too. While we are also doing the same, actually, Harshit. We are
Yeah.
also trying to guess what the players will play. We have this small eval bar with us to help us, but it doesn't do much in this position, to be honest.
And Buddy Pranav thinks for a long time. He thinks for 25 minutes and 33 seconds. But I think that every single second of that calculation was worth it, as knight to b3 was the best move in the position Soumya. He attacks the pawn on c5, and I have a feeling that Buddy wants to meet b6 with d4 now, and the whole point being that after c takes d4, bishop takes d4, if you play knight to f7 now and you go for the same line, somehow white has a very strong move here. You won't believe what white's move is.
Is there a piece sacrifice on f5?
Yes.
Bishop takes f5. Or is it? I want to give
Boom.
up my bishop.
And if takes knight f5, somehow the threat of knight g7 check is inevitable. And then white is going to bring in his queen in the game as well. This is actually close to winning for white, because just look at black's pieces. They're completely out of the action here, whereas the white rook on f1 is already putting pressure on the black king. So knight b3, if Buddy Pranav continues finding the best moves, he is going to be in clear second position after this round. So let's imagine a scenario hypothetically, Soumya, that Pranav wins this game and Vincent wins this game. So then Vincent will play against Pranav, and the winner of that game will be the champion of the event. So Pranav is actually only 2 steps away from potentially becoming the champion of Grenke. Okay,
Yeah.
it's too early, but it's possible.
Yeah, and also, I mean, in general, you should always try to give your best in every round, whether you want to become the champion or not. And here, Pranav doing exactly that. He took 1 hour. I think, let's see, how much time has he taken for this move? I just want to have a look at
For
that.
knight b3, he invested 25 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, 25 minutes and 33 seconds. In the fifth move, usually you would never do that. Pranav also plays really fast. He's not someone who comes under time pressure in most of his games. But here he realized that he needs to be precise and he simply wants to give his best. Bishop
And
takes e5
queen
taken.
takes on e5. But is it not time to go pawn to d4 now? And if cd4, bishop d4, this was always what I had in my mind. And if queen e7 now, oh man, maybe Pranav will sacrifice anyway. Oof.
Uh, but maybe this time it
Takes,
does work.
takes, queen e6. You take on e5, hitting the knight on h8. If you take here, then knight d6 check, and white is winning. Wow. So bishop e5, and now Pranav has an option to take knight takes c5, to go d4, or to take bishop c5. And Soumya, the good thing for him is all of them are better for him.
I think d4 makes the most amount of sense because we've been discussing this. Taking pawns is not the point of this position. The point is to get our pieces into the game. Bishop c5 actually does that. So we can in fact pick up a pawn and bring our piece out. So bishop c5 and d4. Fantastic candidate moves here. Oh, hard to suggest for black though. Hard to suggest anything good for black though. Bishop c5. Let's check bishop c5, Harshit. Bishop takes d6. If I kick your bishop back,
You keep my bishop back. And now there are so many options like bishop a3, for example, is what,
bishop a3, keeping the b2 pawn defended.
yeah, this is what looks logical to me. And if I take this pawn and to go d4, even this looks quite good for white.
But okay, let's see.
If you take here, then I just take back, yeah?
And queen g5 runs into bishop d6. So
And I just castle next.
don't need to worry about my g3 pawn.
But by the way, after bishop e5, he only has 29 minutes. So his position is quite promising. And knight c5 is also another option. Wait, knight c5 looks so good as well. Actually, knight c5 might be really strong. Because what does black do? If you take on b2, we can take on b7 as well. No, but then queen c7.
He has played knight c5, Harshit.
He plays it.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that was the best move in the position. And actually, Pranav, if he plays accurately, he has a decisive advantage. He has a decisive advantage, and oh my God.
After 6 moves, white has a decisive advantage in this game. Let's see what black can do.
Yeah. Also, Magnus has gotten an advantage on his game, but let me try to understand what's happening here. Because if he takes the pawn on b2 MVL, then according to the engine's knight b7, but this is I mean, if Pranav finds this, guys, I will just like bow down to him, yeah? Queen c7, queen b3, giving up the rook, and then bishop c5. What? What is this, guys?
Rook
No way, Jose.
Rook f6? Please explain to me what's happening, Harshit. Rook f6?
And
And
guess
bishop
the next move.
d4.
No, knight e4. Complete domination. But this is too, guys, ये खेला उसने तो मतलब I will just, be completely shocked, but in a good way, of course. But this is too tough. I think bishop b2, knight b7, ये line ढूंढना is just too much. This is too crazy. Yes, Rehal Preet, I agree.
So
But
bishop b2, he probably just wants to give up an exchange and play.
yeah,
Because the dark squared bishop is a valuable piece.
so how to give an exchange though?
Hmm.
But why? We can even go rook c2, right? And just after bishop f6, take the pawn on b7 and then come back. This is more logical, I think.
Why did you go to f6? That was very convenient. I mean, at least e5, मेरा
No.
position
But
और
e5 takes,
queen c7 and I have some threat
you
on
have
c3.
g3, yeah. This is actually somehow, if you are not playing this, I think it can become very difficult to understand this position because it actually is quite concrete. All of these variations, I think. Because here it feels like black is just winning a pawn and black is winning another pawn. But now somehow rook c3, rook e3, and
King is
White is
too
doing well.
badly placed, is it?
Yeah,
King
but
is too poorly placed on e8.
guys, right now, I think Pranav is in a very good position where he has a few options to retain his advantage, and MVL will take his time. But Magnus Soumya is much better now already. So this tournament is getting super exciting before the last round because Vincent has a 1 point lead. He needs to do well in his game. Well, half a point lead, but if he wins this, then he can kind of get a 1 point lead. But look at Magnus's game as he's trailing all of these people. He goes f4, f5, gf. Oh, sorry, he takes with the knight on f5. And everyone was saying that, black has the difficult position. But look at how Magnus has played. d5. No, g6 first. Oh my goodness. Now knight h6, rook f4. What is happening in this game? He goes f5. What a move. Man, I have to give this one exclamation. Double exclamation even. Because knight f5 and then he goes g6. Hitting the knight. If knight goes here, king f7. Knight h6 and he just chops the pawn on f4 and hits the bishop here. But this bishop is falling. Yakuboev takes and now Magnus is thinking, and I guess he will just take the bishop here, right? What else? And generally it's black's knight on g8.
Think it's all a bit too crazy. I mean, Yakubov, uh, is that happening? Sorry, all of this is happening on the board.
Yeah,
Knight e4,
ये लाइव
f4 was
पोजीशन है.
played, f5 happened, knight f5, g6. बाप रे, मुझे लगा
अरे
ये
हाँ,
एनालाइज कर रहे हैं.
एनालाइज नहीं है सौम्या. दिस इज द लाइव पोजीशन.
Oof.
This is happening. Queen b3. Everything is on the board. White का knight g8 पे है. And if you think about it, कहाँ से आया ये? Pawn g4 पे है. So where did the knight reach here? What a crazy position. But black is just winning here. Like, I mean, has a big advantage.
Can we go back one move instead of queen d3?
Instead of,
Queen b3, sorry. Instead of
yeah,
queen b3, didn't we? Oh, can we look at this move d3? I'm sure it loses, but
yeah,
I want to
d3,
find out how.
knight e3 is an option. But I think queen a5 check
Queen a5,
and your king is getting
rook,
completely
rook
boxed,
to,
yeah?
rook to c3
And now
looks
just take the
terrible.
pawn.
And queen b3, bishop e5, is it? Knight b2, queen b3, bishop e5.
Yeah, or even rook b4, right?
Queen f7 is not possible because the knight on h8, suddenly the worst piece becomes the greatest defender.
Yeah, bishop e5 I think is the easiest. So queen b3 has been played because d3 would run into queen a5 check. And now I think Magnus can simply play pawn to d5 and keep his pieces in the center intact.
But pawn to d5, once more d3, no?
And then queen a5
And now
check.
queen c3 I have. That was the point, I guess.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I think white's threat is to play d3 in this position.
Yeah, and I think this is what Yakuboev was banking on. So,
Maybe queen a5 first. Maybe queen a5 first.
but this is
Attacking
falling.
d2. Ah, rook c4 is a threat. Oh, he plays d5.
He
So he
goes for it.
allows d3.
Yeah, he allows d3 because I think he saw rook f4 here. What a move.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. Rook f4. Guys, what is the idea? Rook f4. If I take your knight on c4, what is your next move? Isn't it a free piece on c4 that I can pick up with my pawn?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's so easy to miss. And fork. Exactly. Exactly. Jenix Einstein, Harshit Singh. Exactly. Sairam. Rook takes f1. Hey, ये क्या हो गया?
अरे
I mean, after
dc4.
take, king f1, queen to f4 check, oopsie on f1, oopsie on c1, and black is just winning this position. So d5, this is what Magnus has calculated. One move more than his opponents. And it's so easy to kind of just stop after queen b3, thinking that you're losing a piece after d3. But Magnus kept on calculating and saw this resource of d3 rook f4. And that the rook on c1, is one of the hanging pieces in the position. And he can take advantage of that. Wow. So Magnus Carlsen is better. He still has a chance of winning this tournament. But it all depends on the game of Vincent Keymer, whom we have on the board now. We saw until knight c4, bishop d5, Soumya, and then he castled. Alexei played knight to c7, and now Vincent plays knight back to c3. Queen d7 by Alexei. He is now ready to give up the bishop on d5 because he'll recapture back with his own knight. And white is thinking. So this is the live position on the board.
Okay. Not bad. At least he has survived Sarana. He has more time on his clock as well. There are some reasons why Black may not be feeling as worse as he did 5 moves ago, because now a few of his pieces are out. He has 20 minutes more than Vincent Keimer on his clock.
Mhm.
And he can play short castle immediately whenever he wants. Knight c3. I think bishop to... I think we have... Oof. No. It's not clear actually what black should do, because if we go bishop c4, you play d3, you kick my bishop away. If I go to f7, I block my knight's path.
Sorry, what's the move?
No move suggested yet because I couldn't find any.
Mhm. Bishop c2, but okay, it doesn't really do a whole lot, right?
Oh, it's white's turn to play. Then I'm wondering, why are we not picking up the bishop on d5, Harshit?
Yeah, then knight takes. Yeah, I think knight takes is a very decent candidate move. Knight takes, knight takes.
Bishop at 6.
But now rook g8. And the
Rook g8.
bishop attacks the knight, and suddenly black is doing quite well.
You're threatening g5 at an opportune moment. So let's say I play e4.
And somehow, yeah, this is getting
I have
quite
a trick.
intense.
I have a trick, by the way. Knight b4 might lose on the spot.
To
It
queen
does, right?
b3.
Yes, but I'm not sure why it doesn't lose immediately. Queen b3.
Knight f7 maybe, and you hit the bishop on h6.
So the game goes on after queen b3, knight f7.
Oh, Vincent already played. They're saying Vincent already played queen a4, which was the best move in the position.
Queen a4, a queen lift. Queen goes to h4 next. A
Queens,
fantastic queen maneuver.
yeah, a very cool
Very similar to Petrosian's Queen maneuver in one of his classic games. Also, Gukesh played this recently against Arvind Chidambaram in Tata Steel. The queen goes to the queen side first from its starting square and then moves to the king side immediately.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Because the black king at some point was ready to go to g8, and white is already preparing for that with queen a4. Queen a4 also, Soumya. Let's not forget white can want to play rook c1 here and then threaten knight takes d5 because the pawn on c6 is kind of weak once the bishop on d5 is captured.
Hmm.
So if castles, I do think a move like rook c1 can be dangerous to meet because white now threatens ideas like knight takes d5. Of course, we can just swing our queen over to h4 like we had planned, and this also seems quite dangerous for black. So queen a4, and Alexei, who wants to play fast, he knows that he needs to put Vincent under pressure, but he cannot make a mistake.
Harshit, I'll come back in a couple of
Sure,
minutes. Do you
sure.
want to go full screen and take a break too, or you want to be here?
Okay, yes, maybe we can just go full screen here as he just played g5, and we'll go full screen on the game of Vincent, and here we can see the camera angles of a few other boards too, and we'll be right back, guys.
4.
Yes, actually, after G5, this move that was happened, Soumya, and we are back, guys, to cover the final 2 rounds of this tournament. A very exciting stage in this tournament. Vincent Keymer leads this tournament. And let's see what's happening on this board. We left it after he played Queen A4, Soumya, and
Mhm.
G5 was played.
Yes, G5 actually a very logical move now. You want to prevent Queen H4. And also the bishop on E3 was, as you highlight, was creating issues for black with bishop at
Mhm.
6. And black is also a bit desperate. You want to get your knight out to F7, short castle and you want to do it as quickly as possible. So G5, I like this move.
Yeah, he
What's
goes
your opinion,
G5.
Harshit?
It's logical. It does make sense. But the pawn on F5 on the other hand becomes completely unopposed here. And it's actually a strong pawn here because it stops the white black knight from coming to G6. It also does make the pawn on E7 a backward pawn. So then after G5, white is like, why don't I play D4 so that my bishop can now come into D3 next, perhaps? Bishop F2, E4 could be a very dangerous idea. Knight F7 played and Bishop F2. Wow.
Oh,
Vincent is ready to push pawn to E4 and trap the bishop. Soumya, Knight B5. And this is the live position.
power play by Vincent here. Knight B5, E4. Isn't E4 trapping the bishop on D5? Let's see what Sarana has planned against E4. So E4 will be met with knight takes C3, pawn takes, and B5, and intermezzo attacking the queen and creating a square for the bishop on C4.
Yeah, but somehow this ladder pawn chain from B, C3, D4, E4, F5 that white has created does seem to be giving him a very strong center here. Maybe we can go queen back to D1 and maybe the queen can go to H5 as well. If bishop
Oh,
C4, we go rook E1 and then we can consider going queen to H5 next. White has a very strong center here. So knight B5, E4 is a possibility. The other possibility is also to just play bishop D3, right? And
mm-hmm,
keep the idea of E4 in our hand
mm-hmm.
because it also controls the C4 square. So we are not just threatening E4, we are also threatening C4.
C4 bishop trap because it doesn't even allow B5 conveniently.
Yeah, the pawn on B6 becomes weak. So bishop F2, knight B5. And Vincent is thinking he has quite a strong position here. 28 minutes for him. Alexei has played fast, but I think Vincent has played more accurately in this game. And we have quite a lot of moves in other boards as well. Let's quickly check our boy Pranav. Oh my goodness. Buddy Pranav has pressed the chaos button, Soumya.
Bishop B2 was met with knight to F5, is it?
Boom, let's put a bomb.
Bishop Bishop F5 was taken. There was a piece sacrifice on F5, in fact. Pawn takes, knight takes, and it's not only a piece sacrifice but a rook sacrifice because black can pick up the rook on C1.
If you take here though, white is winning. Can we get Pranav's camera as well? Because now knight b7, then knight d6 check, and we then pick up the bishop on c1. We will still be down a whole rook, but the black king is getting completely bamboozled.
Black king is getting bamboozled, a wonderful word to use there. Also, the queen, she doesn't seem to have too many squares to go to.
सौम्या
I mean,
क्या
it's
चल
an
रहा है?
open board and it's an open board, Harshit, yet the black queen was totally dominated there. I'm sure Pranav having the time of his life playing this position. Bishop takes f5, pawn takes, knight takes. I don't care what the engine says. I love this decision by our buddy
And
Pranav.
look at Nepo there. He's like, buddy ne to what laga diya? And Duda is laughing there. Duda is like, oh my goodness. Who is this boy? Guys, it is Pranav V, an extremely strong talent from India. He's from Chennai, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's demolished a lot of strong players in the title Tuesdays that he's won pretty often. And now he's going to do that most probably over the board as well.
Guys, if you like Bishop takes f5, do like the stream so that more people can potentially see the beautiful finish Pranav is preparing in this game. Maxime Mosher-Lagrave has been really, and look at this, Yakuboev is looking at this and he takes on f5.
He takes on f5. Oh, there are so many pretty variations. I want to show one, Harshit, before we go with rook f5. There was one with d6 with black. D6 a very bad move to make. There are many ways to win, but one of them probably is queen a4 check, rook c6, and knight b7.
Oh my goodness. And then this is pinned. This check is coming in. Roko comes in the game. And it's time for black to resign, but rook f5. You force these top players to find the only way to survive. And players like Maxime Mosher-Lagrave will rise up to the occasion to find these ideas. Rook takes, and now bishop e6.
Bishop e6 played by MVL. Wow.
This was so tough, Soumya. This was so tough. And I thought that Pranav will have very good chances, but Maxime has kind of neutralized White's initiative by sacrificing his own exchange and going bishop e6.
That's the reason these guys are at the top for such a long time. I mean, it's impossible to be a world top 10, world top 20 player for almost 2 decades without having a strength of character within yourself to be able to show up at your best when pushed against the wall. And Maxime has done just that. Rook takes f5, a brilliancy from Maxime in return for Pranav's piece sacrifice. Bishop to e6, another wonderful resource there. Forcing, if white takes on e6, we take back with the pawn. And now both the white knights, which were causing black king and queen so much trouble on the board, are off the board. And we are free to pick up one of the rooks, whichever white allows us to take on the next move.
So this is basically just going to be a mess on the board after bishop e6. Pranav generally thrives in chaotic positions, but so does MVL. And I think this will be a test for Pranav to fight against one of the best players in the world.
Honestly, we are spoiled for choice today, Harshit. All the games, all the boards are so dynamic, such fun games going on. It's hard to understand which game to focus on. Let's go back to Magnus's board because the queens are off the board, Harshit.
Yeah, we left it here after d5 and we saw for everyone joining in that d3, which seems to be winning a piece, is possible, but there is rook to f4. And the problem is that if you take the knight on c4, there is rook takes f1 check, king takes f1 and queen to f4 check. This hits the king on f1 and the rook on c1. So this is why white won't be winning a piece. So after d5, white gives a check, queen c6, takes, now plays d3, and Magnus is on a full piece here. After d takes c4, but the white knight on g8 is trapped on the other hand. What insane understanding and evaluation of the position.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so hard to understand this ourselves, even though we see that black does have an advantage here. to make sense of the position takes so much longer for us than it does for Magnus Carlsen, the magician. यहाँ पे knight at 6 आ रहा है. So one of the first moves that comes to my mind is to prevent it with knight of 7. But then it allows pawn takes pawn on d5. It also, after pawn takes pawn on d5, our c5 pawn is falling as well.
Yes, and also ideas connected with rook takes f7 and knight at 6 check are going to be something we need to watch out for. That would be a very, very unfortunate
Turn
port.
of events. Yes, just like Tanzangi's blunder yesterday against Vaishali. But luckily for us, knight of 7, rook f7 is met with rook to g1. So we are not immediately blundering the piece away. But yes, it is a tactical idea in the future. For now, we want to save a d5 pawn. So d takes c4. Wow. Just take the pawn
Just
instead of
take the
saving it.
pawn. We have two pawns in compensation of a piece. And I think black wants to go bishop e5 to hit the pawn on b2, but also go back bishop g7. And then the knight on g8 is just completely trapped. And black will go knight f7, king f8, king g8 to slowly go and capture that knight on g8. So d takes c4. Did Magnus make a move? No, not yet.
And I suppose d takes c4, knight at 6 is what the chat is wondering about. But knight at 6 is met with rook takes g1. Guys, rook takes g1. Oh, you want to go rook h4?
Yes,
I think,
rook g1, and bishop
and
f4.
bishop f4. And apparently not the strongest idea here because of rook c4, bishop at 6. But I thought black has amazing compensation for the exchange. Enough only for equality though, apparently.
Yes, I think after knight at 6, we can just force the knight back to g8. We can be like, bhai, you came to h6, but go back to g8. And then again, the knight on g8 remains trapped. We can continue with our plan of bishop e5. And, white is completely in trouble here. So dc4, Magnus is deciding, but I'm sure he will take on c4 with the d pawn. Magnus has an advantage.
So the theme of this game seems to be don't pick up the opponent's material, but dominate it with your pieces. We
And
will
by the
see
way,
what's the move Maggie goes for, as the chat
Maggie,
likes to call him.
Maggie, the goat, will find the best move, Soumya. But Aryan Chopra, the Indian prodigy, is playing against Vladimir Fedosiev, and he's actually having a big advantage here. Aryan Chopra, look at this. We left it here around knight b6, if you remember. And we were saying that the bishops on h1 and g1 aren't really placed quite well. c5 chosen by Vladimir, and boom, he takes the knight on b3 so that the rook on c1 is undefended. Takes here knight to e6. Such a fantastic idea by Aryan to threaten the pawn on c5. He goes back to d2, takes the pawn, rook c3, queen f4. Man, Aryan Chopra was completely locked in this game. He's up a pawn. What should you do when you're up a pawn? You should trade the queens. He goes queen to f4, b4, played
Wait,
by Fedosiev.
wait, weren't we winning a piece back then, Harshit, after knight into c5, b4? What was the tactic that Aryan had in mind against, no, instead of rook c3, going b4? Let's ask the chat.
B4. Oh, yes, that's a
b4.
great question. It's a great question, Soumya.
Easy to miss this move actually, because you think knight c5 is not possible. Our knights would be pinned.
Sahaj Bhai is in the chat. Sahaj Bhai is like, Harshit Bhai, please unblock me. There was this funny thing going on yesterday where I went on Sahaj's channel and everyone was like, Sahaj, please look at my message. Please don't ignore me. And here, guys, very interesting chess happening in the final two rounds. And knight b3, guys, knight d3. with brute force. You give a check, and then the point is that this queen and rook will capture the rook on c1, and Aryan is winning. So that's why white chose to go rook c3. Aryan played queen f4, b4, knight e6, takes the pawn on b7, and wow, what a next move by Aryan. He doesn't take the rook on c3, he goes rook c4. He wants
C4.
white to take.
Yeah, this is another theme that we've been seeing in this tournament. Whenever the rook is on an open file and a rook trade has been offered, you don't trade the rook, but you go forward with your own rook so that you can exchange the rook on your own terms. Rook c4.
Rook c4, knight takes c4, and here black is doing really well. So that's why after rook c4, e3 played by Fedosiev. But let's count the material: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Black also has only 5 pawns actually, but these pawns are doubled. The bishop on g1 is like a big pawn which cannot even advance.
Can the only pawn which has no hopes of becoming a queen on the board. Bishop on g1, rook c4, e3 has not been played yet, right? That's
e3
not the
played.
live position.
This is queen e5. This is the life position. And Aryan Chopra, if he wins this game, Soumya, if Aryan wins this game, moves to 6.5 out of 8, he will have the same amount of points like Magnus if Magnus wins. And he's actually right there in the mix. He will be right there in the mix to play for the top 3 spots. And Aryan, who has kind of been away from the limelight, guys, Aryan Chopra was a very talented player. I mean, he is a very talented player. He then kind of decided to go to the US to study in the St. Louis University, but he's still active in chess. And from this result in this tournament, I think people will start, you know, taking, looking at him with a different perspective. And Aryan is much better here.
Also, one of the unusual stories in chess. I mean, most players improve by playing a lot of tournaments as much as they can. Aryan became a grandmaster by playing only 5 tournaments in a year. He used to play not more than 5 tournaments a year. And Harshit is surprised not at the story but at something else. So, what is it that has shocked you, Harshit?
Vincent Keymer's game.
Let's go.
Suddenly, the last few moves in this game have turned to be in Alexei's favor. As we did see this position, we saw all of this. We predicted Queen D1 and Rook E1. Black goes C5. Here, white had the option of somehow going pawn to e5 and just blasting open the position, Soumya. E5 and even f6. खोल the pura position ko. Because after ef6, bishop f5, look at the black king in e8, knight coming into e4. This would have been huge for white. It's not so easy to understand, but also after e5, fe5, simply knight e4. And white just is much better because if you take here, boom, oopsie. He instead played queen h5, and now after cd, black has only one move to keep himself in the game. One move.
The most natural move in the position is short castle,
That's losing after e5.
which loses. So
Because
let's
now
show
if
this.
you take,
Yes, let's show this to the chat.
guys, now the problem is look at this bishop on b1. It turns out to be a rocket bishop after f6. You are eyeing this weak spot on h7 as the bishop and the queen line together on this square. So after cd4, castling e5 gives white a decisive advantage. So you have to take the knight on g3. And after hg3, you now castle. And somehow after e5 now, queen c6 somehow without our knight on g3, which, like, we don't have this knight e4 idea, but this is not so easy to understand. But this is what Alexei Sarana must find in order to survive.
One of the hardest positions I have seen to, and I absolutely fail to understand why it is necessary to take the knight on g3. A bishop on b8 not doing that badly after white pushes e5, because someday we have hopes of taking on e5 ourselves. However, the computer prefers to give it up and open the h file for white.
So maybe practically this idea of Vincent was not so bad. We have a few new people joining in, guys. We are in round 8 of the Grenke Chess Festival, and Vincent is leading the tournament with 6.5. Magnus is actually a point behind him. He's on 5.5 out of 7. Alexander Wellington asks, should I continue watching chess on my couch or go take a bath and read on my e-reader?
You should definitely take a bath and come back and watch us. That's fine, but please take a bath every day.
So now we are in this fascinating position of Vincent and Sarana.
Do you know this, Harshit? I don't know if I should say this on the stream, but a lot of players are difficult to play against because they are strong, and some are difficult to play against because they don't bathe every day.
Arey.
I've heard complaints about certain players, won't name them. Yeah, always a good idea to keep yourself hygienic, guys. And let's see what is the most hygienic move on the board, because black seems to be in a bit of in a lot of trouble actually in this position. Queen h5 के बाद bishop g3, ठीक है, that is a move. What else does black have?
Nana first, baki sab later. Soumya,
I have
if
an
you had to
idea.
make a
ठीक है.
if you had to make a bet that Alexei will play bishop g3, will you do it?
No, I just want to see if I have other candidate moves. If there are no other candidate moves, then bishop g3 is easy to make on the board. You refute short castle, you play e5. Let's say you play short castle here, you play e5, and then can you find a decent move for yourself is the
So let's
question.
understand what is the difference, right?
Hmm.
Bishop b8 पे रहा और अभी रहा. Yes, this is the problem. Knight e4 अभी आ रहा है.
Hmm.
And then we are putting more pressure here. If
Bishop
bishop
d5.
d5,
Hmm.
e6. If knight moves, knight g5.
Oh, let's.
Oh, what did he
This.
play? What did he
He
play?
has made a move.
He took it. Wow. Alexei Sarana has taken on g3, the best move at g3, and now again only move Soumya to castle. The level at which these guys are playing early in the morning is just incredible, by the way. Pranav V errs. He errs in his game, his worst, but let's stick to this game right now because we are following the leader of the tournament.
Short castle, Alexei Sarana up for it. He
Wow.
was worse from the first move, but then onwards, he's found extremely difficult resources to help himself survive this position against Vincent Keymer so far.
I
Massive
genuinely think
respect.
that he has made all the top moves after his first mistake.
Resilience. That's what it is. You have to be resilient. Just because you got into a difficult position as a player or in life, it doesn't mean you give up. You keep fighting and you keep posing problems to the problem in front of you, which in this case is White's big development advantage that has been nullified to some extent due to the exchange of a few minor pieces on the board. King Black has managed to castle his king, bring it to safety. yes, the H file is open, but bringing the rook to H1 with bishop E3, king F2, rook H1 is going to take 3 moves.
If you
And
do this, let's think of this. King H2,
hmm,
queen somewhere, I don't know, queen C6.
rook H1,
Ah, and black can also go
rook
king
is,
G7, rook H8.
hmm,
That's black's defensive resource. That if white
yes.
goes with rook H1, king G1, he will go king G7, rook H8. Okay. So this means that if Vincent draws his game, then the winner of Pranav and Maxim is going to join him. So then we should also take a look at this game actually. Pranav versus Maxim. And we saw it here, Soumya, after bishop e6.
Rook H5 was played, is it?
Yes, rook h5. So basically the material count is that white is down a piece, but he has two pawns in compensation for it and a weak black king. Black goes knight f7. And here white should have played d3 to kind of just solidify his position a little bit and then threaten to capture the pawn on h7 as well. He goes queen a1.
Queen A1, a much more natural move, Harshit. You
I
want to
agree.
prevent Queen F6.
I agree. And I do think that Pranav still has very decent practical chances. I don't really think that we can count him out just yet.
Absolutely. And the threat, there are many threats in the position. One of the threats could be knight e4, but the bigger threat could be taking the pawn on h7 with our rook. And we also can go bishop f2, bishop h4 in certain positions. A king is quite safe on e1. And the
Mhm.
reason is, it is not castled, but it is behind a fortress. The pawns on d2 and e2 are not advanced yet. So they guard them against any checks for the moment,
That's
while
very well
all
explained.
while all our other pieces are now free to move towards the opponent's king, which does not have too many pawns in front of it to guard
Yeah,
himself.
guys, this is the situation here. Vincent is in sole lead, but he might not win his game. So then the winner of this game between Pranav and Maxim will catch up to him. And 9 minutes for Pranav, that's a little worrisome against 39 minutes of MVL. And white is trying to create a lot of practical problems. Can black try to go queen e7 and just do a switcheroo somehow?
Oh, the king hasn't moved yet.
Mm-hmm.
We can long castle. But even the king on c8 will be weak. That is the problem in black's position.
Yeah.
Um, but I like the suggestion. Queen e7. Let's see. Queen to e7. What can we do as white? Queen g7, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Queen g7, long castle.
If you take here,
Mm-hmm.
then I have two pieces supporting it, so you can't do that. So long castle, and
And
now
now rook h7 is a mistake. Why?
because some checkmating ideas here, but Soumya, I feel like the engine evaluation isn't very important here. It's a very practical decision by Pranav to go here. And he knows that he basically needs to play for a win. So I like his decision of going in this variation. He is, after all, playing one of the best players in the world, Maxime Mascher-Lagrave. And then to quickly check Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Leon Mendonça on board 3. Another important board to follow.
The knights have all come ahead. Knight to c4 and e4, two wonderful squares, but not exactly outposts. One move d3 and we will kick both of them away.
But then he comes here and kicks both of your rooks at the same time. So this is what Leon is banking on, to fork both these rooks here. If you take here, knight f1 takes dc4, and suddenly black starts to get an advantage here as the pawn on e3 is weak. Bishop will come into d5. So after knight c4, Jan Nepomniachtchi is thinking, Soumya, only one move keeps the advantage with Jan, and it's not so easy to make this move. He's now putting pressure on d2. If you go rook d1, knight f2 check here. So the only move then is to take the bishop on e4, and after fe4 somehow white has an advantage here, but knight c4 के रहने के बाद I think Leon is doing okay, no, practically.
Yeah, I like black's position actually. I mean, it's a complex position. Yesterday, I remember we were discussing his game against your Mir, and you were saying that we were evaluating it as equalish, maybe slightly better for black, but white has chances. But Leon actually managed to win that game, right?
Yes.
So he is very good at handling these positions, complex positions, and he's shown that in this tournament as well. I would say he has good chances in this game, and so does White. Of course, Nepo loves to play dynamic chess. So I think तीनों result possible है इस game में.
Yeah. And actually, can we go full screen? Because I want to get the standings once on our screen, Soumya, because we are in the second last round. So it's very important to keep an eye on the standings. So if we can just go full screen on this board, and yes, maybe the game of Buddy Pranav, as it's such an exciting game, as Queen e7 was in fact played by MVL, the best move in the position. And here, let me just quickly get the standings of the tournament.
Sorry, he was playing Duda yesterday, Leon, and he drew the game, and he's on 5 out of 7. 5 out of...
No,
5 out of
Leon is
7.
on 5.5 out of 7.
Then, so he's basically drawn. Oh, he's lost only one game. He's made one draw, and he's won the other games. 5
Yes.
games that he's played. Okay.
So if we can somehow show this standings that I have, we'll try to get them in just a few minutes. But look at this, Pranav, Soumya. He's completely focused. He actually is under tremendous pressure in terms of not just the position, but also the tournament standings. And yes, we have the standings in front of us, but maybe we can go full screen with the standings actually. Just the full screen itself so that we can see the points that they have here. Because it's we cannot see how many points they have. So if we can do that. But yes, Pranav, as I was saying, is down to his last 7 minutes. And then if he wins this game, he can actually catch up to become a joint leader of this tournament. A very, very important moment in that game. Leon as well as an important game. If he wins this game, then Leon will also be in the second position. But look at this.
Made a
He
move.
takes the knight on e4. Best move by Nepomniachtchi.
Knight d4, knight c4, bishop takes, pawn takes, f pawn takes on e4, rook f8 played instantly.
Producer by yes and yes, perfect. Here we can see it, Soumya. Vincent Keymer in the sole lead with 6.5 out of 7. Alexei Sarana, MVL and Pranav V are just half a point behind him, guys. And then Jan, Magnus, Leon. Then there are like bunch of players. Even Aryan Chopra is on 5.5. So
Sound. No sound, is it? No, maybe maybe it's just one person cannot hear us. It's
yeah.
fine. Go on, Harshit.
So basically 5.5, the people on 5.5 also have a very good shot at getting into the top standings here. But basically, it's these players, Vincent, Pranav, Sarana, and MVL, who are kind of ahead of the whole field here. And now I think we can try to go back to see what's happening in the game of Vincent. Wait a second. Soumya, we have a lot of moves in Vincent's game. Can we go back to Vincent's game, Soumya?
Yes, let's go. Let's bring the board. Let's bring Vincent's camera on our screen. And we have bishop takes, pawn takes, and castle happened. And white played e5. Knight to d8 happened on
This
the
was a
board.
big mistake. E5, black had to go queen c6, the move that we were analyzing, but knight d8. And now white could have gone for even bishop e3, threatening bishop takes g5. White pushes e6, queen d6. And this is the live position, but with the pawns on f5, e6, the knight should have been on d6 instead. It's on d8. You know, the difference is that queen c6, e6 ke baad, the knight could come to d6, stopping bishop e4, putting pressure here. Now, in the live position, the knight is on d8. And
But
this allows white to go, hmm.
yes, absolutely. Very well pointed out, Harshit. I see what black wants to do though. Queen d6, he wants to go knight c6, knight d4, and maybe sacrifice a piece on e6 if in case push comes to shove. But at least you're pressurizing the d4 pawn with the knight being on c6. But rook e3, rook h3 seems to be on. How do we defend against this big tactical idea? It's
It kind
checkmate
of
after all.
feels unstoppable, Soumya. It kind
Why?
of just feels like g4, knight c6. I just continue with my same idea of rook e3, not caring about the pawn on d4 because rook to h3 and you are getting checkmated, as you
No, I
just
think,
said.
yeah, I think the only defensive idea, Harshit, is g4, king g7, rook e3, and rook h8. But it's terrible, but we need to make it.
But rook h3,
And then
ah,
play with our queen because the knight on d8 guards
yes.
f7 and the
But
rook on h8 guards h7.
yeah, this would be really sad, but might be the only way for black to defend
And
against
there could
checkmate.
be a piece sacrifice on g5 later after rook comes to h8, bishop e3, and bishop takes g5. That could be the way for white to finish off black in this position.
Yeah, I think this is a very nice point. This could be a way for white to, proceed from this nice position that he has. He has 15 minutes on his clock. Vincent, he does seem to be quite confident here. By the way, Pranav's position is getting from bad to worse. Somehow, Vincent has a good position, but Aryan Chopra is another Indian player that we must follow in the next game. Of course, we will see this game right now. Actually, do you want to just see his position very quickly? Because
Yes, absolutely. He is having a stunning position against a 2700 player, Vladimir Fedosiv.
bishop a6 is where we saw it. He takes on c3, f4, boom. Knight takes f4 here. And after bc3, black is up a pawn. And the bishop on g1 is completely out of the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aryan manages to convert this position in the next few moves.
Even after pushing the pawn in front of the bishop still doesn't get any respite.
Oh, and he plays a move. Vincent plays pawn to g4 and he stares at Alexei in the eye. So I think from now on, we must stick with this game. G4, threatening rook e3, rook h3.
G7 is perhaps the only defense. I don't see any other way for black to play. Any kind of piece sacrifice on e6 will not work out well for black because Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, runs into queen h7, checkmate. Once the pawn on f5 has moved, the bishop's path on b1 is cleared up to protect the queen on h7.
Absolutely right, Soumya. After g4, black cannot sacrifice to get some initiative. He needs to go passive. And when we are playing a game, to play a move like king g7 and rook h8 just feels wrong. And you can see Nepo here. He's trying to think, wait a second, is white just completely winning? And it seems to be the case. It seems to be that Vincent is just going to roll over his rook to the h file, double down on the h7 pawn, and Alexei Sarana might not have a defense.
I also feel like black is like maybe one move short. Like imagine if we could give black an extra move. So let's say king g7 here.
King g7.
King g7, let's say bishop to c2 or pawn to a3. Make a random move.
Yeah, even
Queen
blundering a
c6.
pawn.
Queen c6 I want to go. Rook e3. And queen e8. This was my idea. And then queen comes back.
Oh my God, but look at this. What an unbelievable zugzwang.
Even this is not enough, huh? Even
No,
if we manage to exchange queens.
no, because black's knight is trapped, Soumya. Black has no moves. This is just losing. D5 next. Oh, sorry, not D5, but just rook A3 and
Rook
then
a3 and rook a7, yes.
so G4. And these are the margins that the players are playing at. You have only one chance to come in the game. Alexei Sarana could not have afforded to put his knight on D8. And people are saying Magnus is also winning. Yes, guys, Magnus is doing well, but Pranav is losing.
Okay, let's have a look at how Pranav is doing. Then we go to Magnus's game and come back to Vincent's.
Yeah, here after Queen E7, he takes the bishop on E6, which was not the best. Queen G7 was better. And after takes D3 long castles, he takes the pawn on A7.
Aren't we
But
getting our bishop trapped with b6?
yeah, B6 is a very strong move here. Also Rook E8. And suddenly black is the one threatening checkmate.
Now the fortress on d2 and e2 doesn't feel very strong because there is nothing to support it. No more pieces left. Rook e8, queen. Okay, let's look at b6 first if it works because it's the most natural way to continue for black.
Yeah, it is a good move. And he
Oh,
goes
rook
Rook
e8.
E8. And Pranav only has 2 minutes 50 seconds on his clock. And his position is kind of crumbling. After e4, knight e5 also seems to be like an idea. So I don't see Pranav defending this anymore. He
Yes.
had a great start, but maybe somehow his time management was not the best because with 2 minutes on the clock, I don't see the white king getting safety.
I also feel like MVL put up an extraordinary
Yeah,
resilience against White's aggressive approach. Yeah.
he did.
So I
MVL,
would say it's more about MVL's play and counter attacking instincts here rather than Pranav's mistakes.
yeah, and Rook C5 played, but yeah, he is kind of going wrong here, Soumya, because E4, Queen A6, and we might just see resignation.
Queen B2 is a move, no? Queen B2, acha, Queen A6 and but Queen B2, my threat was Bishop B6 too. So maybe Queen B2 defends against the threat on E2
Yeah,
for
Queen
a moment.
B2 like maybe temporarily holds on, but then
Knight
also
E5.
Knight E5, Knight C6, and Black is just completely winning here.
So knight e5 threatens knight to d3. So there are two threats at the same time. It is difficult to save both.
Yeah, it is difficult to save both these threats, and Pranav V is unfortunately going to lose to Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, who moves on to 7 out of 8. Wow, MVL has been having an incredible event so far. And with just one round to go, he will also play with the white pieces. So MVL is in a very good situation to fight for the top 3 spots.
MVL not having the best time in the post-COVID years, Harshit. Before that, he used to be in the top finishers of most of the elite tournaments that he played. Post-COVID, he has been sluggish with his form, but here he seems to be finding his mojo again. In this tournament, both Magnus and Sarana are here to watch the game.
Yeah.
See MVL create his magic on the board. E4 played by Pranav.
Yeah, but Pranav knows that he won't survive for too long here. Maxim, who defeated Hans Niemann in the last round in this very nice opposite colored endgame, now plays a brilliant middle game to survive the attack Pranav put on him. Pranav was putting a lot of pressure on MVL, and I have to tell you that most of the players would have crumbled against Pranav's pressure, but Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, one of the top players in the world, kept his cool, and now after Queen A6, he's just winning another piece.
Queen A6 trapping the bishop on A7. Let's go to Magnus's board, shall we?
Magnus Carlsen, yes. Let's check on Magnus, who's playing against Yakuboev. We saw it until this moment, where black took the pawn on c4, rook c3, and now he goes for this move bishop to e5, rook e3, knight to f7. If you take on f7, you are losing the bishop on g1. That's the problem. So he goes knight c2, g5. Now the rook on c6 prevents the knight on g8 to come to h6. And this is the live position on the board.
Oh, can we go back 1 minute and see the line that you were showing, Harshit? Like rook takes e5.
Yes.
Sorry, rook f7.
Yes, rook g1.
G1, king f2. And is the move bishop d4 or king f7?
And if you
King,
take, then bishop d4.
and if I take on e5, you take on a1 and not on g8.
Yeah. And this is just winning for black. So instead of taking on f7, white plays knight c2. And then to stop all the ideas connected with knight h6, black plays g5.
Oh, g5 actually stops most of white's ideas with the knight h6 plans.
And now
And
rook g6 is also a move. So Magnus is in a very, very good position.
how about I double on the f file? Is that a good plan for white here?
Rook f3 is a very good move.
If the bishop blocks the f file with bishop f4, I have e3, I suppose. Bishop
And
f4.
also knight e3.
Knight e3 might be better because e3 knight e5 is the issue, I guess.
Yes, you're spot on with your calculation here. The rook is falling, knight e3 check is incoming, and black is doing well here. But knight e3, and then the white knight actually is going to d5 and e7 pawn is falling. So g5, rook f3, maybe rook f4 needs to be played by black.
Rook f4, yes. Much more logical than bringing the bishop in.
And then you trade one pair of rooks and then you play rook g6.
But whenever you go rook g6, Harshit, for example, let's
This
say,
pawn falls.
exactly, like, let's say h4, I don't know, maybe, let's make a move.
Say
Bishop
a3.
a3, rook g6, and knight e7.
Yeah. And you
King
are, I am
takes and bishop
losing
c5.
too many pawns here. But the b2 pawn is also is falling.
Mm.
So black is in a good position here, even though he's down a piece, because he has two pawns. The knight on g8 is trapped, and the b2 pawn is falling. Jacopo is down to his last 12 minutes. How is Harika doing? I don't think she is. I'm not sure where Harika is. I don't think she's on one of the top boards today.
She's on board 33, Harshit, playing against an FM.
Okay. So
And
Harika is
she has a
also,
good position.
sorry, she has a good
She has
position.
a good
Okay.
position, yes.
So Harika is doing well. That's very good to see. Um, Maybe we can just see the end of the Pranav game because I will get resignation soon. Yeah, this is the board. And Queen a6 played, Rook to c5. And let me just refresh the board because the clock. It's Pranav's move.
So rook to c5. Now queen a7 is possible, guys. What will you do for queen a7?
Yeah, it's white to play, but after h3, if black takes, that would be a huge blunder, guys. Huge mistake. Rook takes c7. Bingo. And after king b8, deflexion to the king on b8, and you just win a queen. So he made a move. He played. No, he has not made a move yet. He's down to 33 seconds.
Knight c6 is a big threat in the position. Knight to c6 and then pick up the bishop
Yeah.
on a7.
This is the big threat for black. And look at Pranav down to 20 seconds. Clock is ticking. 15, 14, 13. Pranav needs to move. 9. And he might just resign.
No good moves in sight. That is White's issue here. He
He
plays rook
goes rook
h5,
h5.
defending the bishop for one more move. But what happens for knight c6 instantly? Played
Yeah.
by MVL. Maybe he fights on with queen d6.
Yeah, I will be surprised if he keeps on playing here because after queen b6, he can just take the
Beast.
bishop. He can even take the pawn. This position is completely winning for Maxime.
Yeah, but I guess white has 4 pawns for 2 pieces, so he might want to play that endgame for a bit. Queen to a2, not giving white any respite. Picking up one more pawn before you pick up the bishop. Rook at
Yeah,
7.
rook takes h7 here. White has 3 pawns for a piece, but he's losing another one here on a7.
Does rook f8 make any sense, or do we simply pick up the bishop on a7?
Yeah, rook f8 is a fantastic move. It's one of the best moves in the position,
Idea
and you
is
are
to
threatening
checkmate.
checkmate somehow. So let's see what move MVL is going to play. He's about to play a move, and he
Knight
just
a7.
takes knight a7. He just picks up another bishop, and black is the one who has his king very, very safe on c8. Generally, one knight stops all the checks, but now black has two knights in front of the king. So it's one too many. And yeah, it's sad to see this. Look at Pranav. He's quite unhappy to. And no, he comes
Queen
back queen
d4.
d4.
Queen d4. Threatening queen d7, queen c7, queen b7, checkmate. Queen a4 might be a way to defend. Queen a4, rook h8. Pranav creating threats. He
Yeah,
continues to create problems for black.
Continues to create threats, Soumya, but I think he's just trying to come in terms with the fact that he needs to resign this game because he was always having so many chances, but MVL defended quite well, and he will be rewarded with a full point. Kudos to Pranav as well for trying so well in this game. Would have meant a lot for him if he won this, but I'm sure he's going to get a lot of these chances. Pranav is someone who is going to get chances like this in the future.
Yeah, he's only 20 years old this year. So he has a long career ahead in front of him. Let's go to Vincent's game, or do we stick to this one?
Let's go to Vincent's game actually, because Vincent is down to now only 5 minutes on the clock.
And apparently Black managed to defend. Okay, let's see what happened. The King G7 Rook H8 plan did occur on the board.
Oh my God, we are going to see some crazy lines here. Soumya, the bishop on B1 is falling, but we might see Vincent giving up both the bishops. क्या crazy होगा वो? Boom! If you take here, King H2, I'm threatening bishop at. I'm threatening. What am I threatening?
Bishop h6, queen e8, checkmate
Yeah,
is the
bishop
threat.
e6, queen. Okay, what does he play? He goes bishop d3 instead. Okay. Vincent is like, तुम्हारा गेम नहीं है, तुम पीस sacrifice कर सकते हो. He just defends it.
And
And
he also wants to defend g2, Harshit. Queen b2, threatening checkmate on g2, bishop f1. So good move by Vincent there, keeping everything together.
yeah, I think this is a much more pragmatic approach. And next, bishop g5 and f6. Guys,
I
Vincent is going to win.
I also think Vincent is going to be a very good family man, not giving up pieces just for the sake of it, keeping things together and piling on his advantage bit by bit. Bishop d3, a fabulous move on the
तो
board.
मेरे लॉजिक से तो मेरा मुश्किल लग रहा है.
तुम्हारा थोड़ा इम्प्रूवमेंट चाहिए लाइफ में. यस. बिशप d3. लेट्स सी ब्लैक क्या करेगा अभी. बिशप g5 कैसे प्रिवेंट करेगा अभी हर्षित.
Yeah, you cannot play h6 because then queen g6 check is coming. So what should black play? Not easy to make a move for black actually. Because just to show everyone, if you play a move like
Ah,
bishop takes a2,
Pranav has resigned, huh? Pranav has
yeah,
resigned.
Pranav resigned. Maxime wins this game and Maxime moves on to 7 out of 8. And one would think, Soumya, one would really wonder that 7 out of 8 would give him a clear lead. But this boy Vincent is going to be on 7.5 out of 8. Yeah, crazy. I mean, just to tell everyone, I played a tournament last 2 weeks back, and 7.5 out of 9 was enough to win the tournament. But here, the players are scoring so well that 7.5 out of 8 barely gives him the lead. Yeah, MVL is right there with 7.
What did he play? He made some moves.
Queen b2, bishop f1.
Queen b2, bishop f1 is a mistake. Why? Defending checkmate cannot be a mistake, right?
Yeah, I think bishop f1 is fine. Yeah, bishop f1 is not exactly a mistake. I think it's okay.
Bishop f1, a very solid move. Maybe bishop c4 could be an idea for black.
Or queen a1 and then bishop c4.
So queen a1, what if we go bishop g5 anyway? Queen d4
take,
check to nahi aa raha. Queen takes.
Yeah, takes, king f8. And white is not clearly winning here actually.
Queen f4 here because I want to defend d4.
Knight c6.
c6.
Queen d4 next. So black keeps on fighting here.
Queen a1, a tough move to find. It
But
also threatens bishop c4. Yes, Harshit, I see that it threatens, but it's just that it's hard to believe that bishop g5, fg, queen g5 can be allowed.
yeah,
Maybe king f8 is a move. What do you think?
king
Would king
f8,
f8 be in your radar
check.
of candidate moves?
but I have to go king g8. I mean, I feel like I'm getting the same position with the tempo up. So I do think queen a1 makes a lot of sense because we have a threat. We have an immediate threat of bishop c4. So as long as bishop g5 doesn't win immediately, I would be going for queen e1.
Very well explained there. So Sarana has 30 minutes to make that decision. I think this is one thing we need to learn from these top players. Even when they are worse, they don't consume all their time trying to defend a tough position. They keep time on their clock because they know that this is not the only problem they'll have to solve. There will be more problems in life, and for that you need more time on your clock to be able to come up with good moves at that time. So 30 minutes on on his clock, a very good strategy by Sarana so far.
Yeah. And we might get a lot of twists and turns in this game still if Alexei manages to find this move queen to a1 and he
Oh,
does
he
make a
finds
move,
it.
he
He
plays it
finds it.
fine. Crazy guy. Crazy guy. And now Vincent is down to his last 5 minutes and the clock ticks faster than usual when you are the one thinking in this position. You feel as if 5 minutes is a lot because you play an entire blitz game, and yet in a position like this, it just skims past like 30 seconds.
Chandan Kumar says basically you need more summer in your life. Good one. Very, very nice point there. Queen A1 on the board. I wonder what is the move that does not give up my advantage as white here, because you are threatening bishop c4. Bishop g5 might not be the way. What is it? Queen h6, king g8, and
Wait, bishop g5 and rook h5?
oh, is that a checkmate?
Ah, but
I
maybe
think
d4,
if
king
we have to be very
h1.
precise, king h1.
Ah, and you have some crazy perpetual. Oh, if
Bishop
you
takes,
take
bishop takes. Let's see this. Queen d1.
check,
No, maybe
check,
queen a1. Oh, queen d6.
and
Right.
then check. And this is a draw. Wow. So queen a1 and Vincent still needs to be accurate here.
A very, very hard line to find as white or black here. No blame on the players if either of them misses it in their calculation. But if one of them finds it, then kudos. King f2 by Vincent.
Goes king f2. Man, Vincent is playing some incredible chess. He gives up a pawn on a2 with a check, Soumya. And then he wants to go to g3. And if queen goes to like, let's say a3, then king h2. And the king has somehow, I'm not sure what's happening. Yeah, because now queen d6, king g1, you cannot place your queen on a1. And then bishop g5 next and white is winning.
So you
What a
basically
move!
you deflected the queen away by allowing her to give you a bunch of checks.
King f2 is top class. King f2 reminds me of that king f1 move that Magnus made against Shamsuddin.
Tota Dhruva, my friend from Chola, is in the chat. Good one, he says. To someone in the chat, maybe, or to us, not sure, or to the players. Tota, what do you think of the position on the board? Will you be able to defend it as black? Or
Oh, he goes
bishop
bishop
c4 on the
c4.
board?
He makes a mistake. And why is it a mistake? Because after takes, queen h6 check, king g8, it's not so easy. But somehow bishop g5 not okay. Bishop g5 is also good, but king g3 and king h2 and only then to take on g5 is completely winning.
Because queen d4 doesn't come with a check. I suppose that is the
Hmm.
difference.
But how easy is it to spot this? Not very easy, I think.
I think it's a intuition based decision that rather than calculation. You either play king g3 or you don't.
Alexander is, I wouldn't be able to figure out any of these sequences, but you're not the only one. I think a majority of us, including us, would have found it. Oh, by the way,
It takes
he
on c4.
takes on c4, and let's see if Vincent can play queen h6 and king g3 as well, because if he can, he absolutely deserves to win this tournament, Soumya. मतलब इतना accurate he is playing यहाँ पे कि Vincent Keymer needs to play in the Freestyle World Championship. He has to be there.
I agree, Harshit. Stunning display of chess so far by the boy. Maybe this game he does find his. He has 2 minutes though. That is my only concern for Vincent here. Nothing else. He has the position. He has the skills. Doesn't have as much time on his clock though.
Time नहीं है दोस्तों, but I think he is one of the players who can play a move like King G3. When all of us are thinking towards the forcing variation, I think Vincent, oh, he plays it. Oh my goodness. Vincent plays King G3. This is just top class chess.
Poetry on the board by Vincent Keymer today. King f2, king g3. A maneuver not many players would find. I doubt if the strongest players in the world would have found it, but Vincent does with such less time on his clock.
Yeah, this is, as you said, this is poetry. This is craftsmanship of the highest level being displayed on the board of chess. It's like Vincent was given this plain canvas and he just made something so beautiful out of it. And here, after King G3 to King H2, I think he is going to win this game, Soumya.
I want to say a couple of lines in Hindi for Vincent here. बुझ भी जाए चिराग तो कोई बात नहीं, एक वो ही नहीं जो इस कमरे को रोशन कर रहा है. Because Vincent lighting up the board with his play here.
Crazy, Soumya. Incredible. He is lighting up all of us, but your poetry is inspiring all of us.
It's my husband's, so all credit to him there. King to g3 and queen e1 check. Not an issue for us. We can pull a king back to h2 in a corner. We can tuck it away where there are no checks. Rook on h3 guards the bishop on e3. King moving away from the third rank opens up the rook to defend the bishop there.
So let's just understand, Soumya. If I play c3, the point now is that takes, check, king g8, rook h5, and now after queen e1 check, king h2, you just cannot stop rook takes g5, right? This is why white is completely and totally winning. If you go knight f7, you still take. Oh my goodness. That's the only way. And if king f8, queen h5, oh my god. Oh my goodness.
He's a rook down and checkmate is unavoidable. The rook on h8. Just a silent spectator to all the atrocities being committed against his king on the board today.
And by the way, Leon actually has a very decent position and Aryan Chopra is completely winning. So we will try to go towards those games as well. Magnus also having an advantage, but all eyes on this game right now. All attention has to be on this board as Vincent is a few steps away from reaching the top, from reaching the summit.
I'm so happy to see this type of chess from Vincent. दिल खुश हो जाता है जब कोई भी इस तरह की chess आपको दिखाता है. They show you a new way of playing chess. No sacrifices there. Bring the king to f2 to g3 and then to h2. You could have gone to h2 in one move. But no, Vincent says, I want to keep my pieces defended and I will do it my way.
And his way seems to be the best way, as we have some people in the chat saying they are not so happy because Magnus won't be winning in this event. But guys, you know, there are always going to be these exceptional performances by players like Vincent that will stop the Mozart Magnus from winning an event once or twice in the year. And Alex is about to play his move here.
Nehal, though, says was rooting for Vincent from the start. So Vincent fans very happy here, feeling validated by his play. Queen to a2, I suppose, was chosen by Alexei.
Guys, he goes
Oh
Queen
no,
B2.
Queen b2, queen on a dark square.
And it is going to be now time to capture the pawn on G5 and go into that variation that we just saw. We can just go into that variation we just saw.
Yeah.
2 minutes, 20 seconds for Vincent. You can see his eyebrows have are being raised as he questions Black's last move. But Black did not have a defense, Vincent.
Queen
And
h6
here he,
check for bishop
boom,
g5.
takes the pawn on G5. Look at Jan Nepomniachtchi's reaction as he watches this game. Takes on G5, Queen h6 check. And he has found the whole variation. Queen h6, King G8 on the board. Rook h5 now.
What happened to the clock? The clock is working fine. Does have 2 minutes 34 seconds on his clock. Black
Yes.
has 26 minutes, but the position is not enough. The time is. The position, though, has slipped away. Queen h6, king g8, rook h5, no defense.
No defense. Rook h5. Guys, the point is if you give a check, king goes to h2, and we saw this variation just to show everyone that we don't take the knight, but we take here, and then we give a check and queen h5, and you just can't stop checkmate. If you go king g7, oh my god, this is so beautiful, Soumya. f6 check. Wow. If you take with the pawn, then queen f7, queen f6 is a mate. And then if you take with the king, then queen h6 is a mate. Oof. And he plays rook h5. Vincent. Yes, let's go full screen. Rook to h5 played by Vincent. One of the best games that I've seen in this entire tournament played by Vincent. And Alexei Sarana fought well. But when your opponent plays like how Vincent did, there's very little you can do.
Yes, absolutely. Vincent and yes, absolutely. Sarana, I think, found a lot of cool resources there to save a very difficult position from the start. But then one passive move, knight to d8, was enough for Vincent to pounce upon him. After that, he gave him no chance so far. Queen a3 on the board. King will be tucked away to h2.
Yes, king will be tucked away to h2. And we try to have a very, very small board somewhere so that the people can watch the game as well. Somewhere, if the board can be stable. Yes, Vincent, his opponent has given a check. The king can just go to h2.
Maybe we bring the other screen otherwise, where you get the board, the cameras of the players, and some more cameras of the other players playing. That would also be cool if we can't get the board here.
Yes, you can see here, guys. This is perfect. This is perfect here because you can see after rook to h5 that Vincent has played queen a3 check. He can just slide his king over to h2 now. And then if queen d6 check, he can just go something like king to h1. And now no checks. No more checks and rook g5 is a threat. So queen a3 check, and Vincent has not made his decision yet.
1729 random with a quote from Dead Poets Society there, I suppose. It's a movie. Engineering, law, medicine are noble pursuits and are needed to sustain life, but art, passion, love are what we stay alive for. And Vincent creating art on the board. King h2 played. Queen d6 will be followed by king to h1. No check.
Yeah, all of this has been happening on the board, and in his hometown, in his home country,
E.
king
King
h3 played,
h3 by Vincent.
knight
Queen a3.
f7, ef7.
Knight f7,
What?
ef7.
What? Oh my God! Soumya, he blundered.
Did he miss? Did he
No
miss the
way.
checkmate?
Oh my God, Soumya, he missed it. Rook g5, queen g5, and queen h5 was resignation. But Vincent missed it. And we were talking about twists and turns, and here we see a huge twist in the game.
I think he missed f6, Harshit, in that variation after queen h5, king g7, f6, because I was questioning myself if I would find it. Perhaps not the easiest move to find in time pressure. He missed that variation. King f7, queen g5, and Sarana is back in the game.
And you can see from his body language, he leans back in the chair, and suddenly this game is far from over.
Ah, what a pity. I mean, he's played such a fantastic game so far. He found these beautiful maneuvers, went for a piece sacrifice, that works out just fine, but could not find the finishing touch
Yeah, he
to
just
his
could
art.
not find the finishing touch there. And by the way, if you quickly go and check Leon Mendonca's game as well as this game keeps on going, Leon actually is under big pressure as well. Leon Mendonca's board on the live screen here. You can see his camera there beneath.
And you see Sarana there actually relaxing a bit. He takes his
उसने
jacket
देख
out.
लिया था सौम्य उसने देखा था ये win and he's like I just dodged a bullet and now he's excited about the position. Leon is not though. He is down to 30 seconds. And the king on c8 looks exposed. Queen g4 check aa raha hai. Rook f1 is coming.
Queen g4 is a big threat. King c7, knight e6. Yes, queen e7 on the board. Played. Knight e3, queen takes e3. दो moves आ सकते हैं next.
So Leon is under pressure.
Oh, is queen g4, king b8, c7 a move, Harshit?
Queen g4, king b8, c7. Wow, that's actually an incredible find, Soumya, because if queen c7, knight e6, and if king c7, also knight e6, but the engines somehow are finding it defendable after the move king f b7, but I genuinely think queen g4, c7 might be tempting for. Oh, Vincent's game has some moves, so let's go there. Here, Vincent, queen g5, queen d4, rook h6 played.
Rook h6. So the rook on h8 is still stuck to the defense of the h7 pawn. We can't move that.
But now actually,
Rook
only
h7 is a
move,
threat.
Soumya, for Alexei to give queen c3 check, and if g3 then to somehow go queen a1. He needs to find queen c3 check. Otherwise, Vincent is winning
He plays
again.
queen c3 check
Arey yaar,
on the board. Okay, let's
crazy.
go. Let's go. King h4 को queen e1 check आ रहा है.
Yeah.
And king h5 will be met with queen h1 check. So no king h4 here. Can we go king h2 back?
So we have to go king h2 and then queen e5 check, but this is just a perpetual. This game is going to end in a draw now, Soumya. Wow.
Why was queen c3 check necessary? What was white's threat in the position, Harshit? If you can
I think
explain it to us.
somehow, the reason was that queen a1, if you play directly, then
Mm-hmm.
after rook e6, queen h1 check, king g3, you can't really give any more checks. However, after queen c3 check g3, queen a1, now queen h1 is a mating threat. So
Hmm.
it takes away the g3 square from your queen, and king h2, queen e5 check. This has happened on the board, and this
Ah.
game will end in a draw, and Vincent is shaking his head.
Yeah, Vincent feels a bit frustrated there because he feels like he had a win in hand and he couldn't find it. He's still not sure whether what he missed, but king h3 on the board, he's going to go for the perpetual, it seems.
Yeah. Queen to e5 check, and Vincent has no other option than to repeat king h3, queen c3 check is on the board. And yeah, a very disappointed Vincent, because now Soumya, MVL and Vincent are going to have the same amount of points. MVL will play Vincent with white, and the winner takes it all.
And that game could go either way, Harshit. MVL is such a fighter. We've been talking about his resilience throughout the stream today. He's not going to take it easy. He's not going to go for a quick draw. He's going to fight it out.
Oh, he absolutely will fight it out. And this is slightly disappointing game for Vincent, who played such a fantastic game. Just missed this one resource, and here they already shook hands. And Alex is like, yeah, I was completely had such a bad position. They have a laugh there. I don't think any of the players saw that tactic with rook takes g5. This one, let me just put it on the board here. Guys, this is the moment where Vincent was winning with rook g5, king f8, queen h5. And it feels like after king g7, white doesn't have anything, but he has f6 check. This mating pattern. King takes, go queen h6 checkmate. And if pawn takes, then queen f7, king h6, queen f6 mate. This is what he missed, and the game ended in a draw. We have a lot of other games that are going on somewhere. Let's quickly go to the game of Magnus
Mm-hmm.
against Yakuboev, as Magnus is completely winning.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get the other screen now, I think.
It seems like they're discussing something. I think Yakubov
Oh,
resigned.
oh
I
yeah,
think
he
Yakubov
resigned.
resigned
Yeah,
because
Yakuboev resigns. And
Magnus
Magnus
has won.
moves to 6.5 out of 8.
The big threat on the board in front of you is rook g1 checkmate because the pawn on c3 controls the square on d2. The rook on f6 controls the f5. The king has nowhere to go.
Yeah. And Yakuboev decided to resign here. He asked Magnus, where did I go wrong? And I think they were trying to analyze that. So Magnus Carlsen moves to 6.5. And here you can see that the players are analyzing.
Dilip
Um,
Kulkarni, Pranesh is not playing. He is in Cyprus to help Prague. There
yeah.
is a nice photo of theirs on the ChessBase India Twitter page, I suppose.
Hmm. Guys, let's see which game is remaining. Jan versus Leon Mendonca is going on, Soumya.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly. Now only two players are in the joint lead. It's Maxime Vacher-Lagrave and Vincent Keymer, both of them on 7 out of 8. They will be playing against each other in the last round. That match will decide the winner of this event. And now, and if, yes, because if there are a lot of people on 6.5 out of 7, I think. So let's see, by the way, what happens between Yan and Leon, because we have those cameras as well. Jan
Yeah.
is playing against Leon. Leon has a minute.
And if Leon wins, he will also be one of the contenders for the top spots. So I think it's a big game for both of them, especially
Mhm.
for Leon, though, because he would love to have this big break in his career by beating one of the top players in the world, Ian Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah, it seems difficult though. A little difficult as black has the isolated pawn. Black's king slightly more exposed than the white king.
But जैसे यहाँ पे knight e4 queen takes pawn takes is in black's favor, right? So the ending will be in black's favor because
Yes,
black is a pawn up.
I don't think white will want to trade the queens here. As you rightly pointed out, this will be a favorable endgame for black as he's up a pawn, but he goes for queen g4 check. King b8. And what does he have in his mind now? Maybe he can go. Now, what to do here? Let me. What does Jan Nepomniachtchi have in his mind? Look at the focus of Leon. He's completely locked in. Leon playing against Yan. Yan takes the bishop on e4, and that's the best move.
What's the point? After queen takes e4,
Queen
we
takes
have queen
e4.
d7. Is it?
Ooh, that's exactly the point. You move the queen away from the 7th rank, and white will now threaten checkmate on b7. So knight e4, d4 played. And now I think Yan wants to go rook c1 to kick the knight away. If the knight moves, c7 check. That's the winning plan. If he doesn't find it, Leon is back in the game.
Oh, rook c1 is super strong, Harshit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Rook c1, so hard to face because c7, c8 is a new queen on the
Yeah.
board.
Rook c1. If the knight moves to, let's say, e5, then you lose the e4 pawn. So you have to go to d6. Then, oh wow,
c7.
queen d7. And if you take,
Oh, and there is no way to prevent knight e6 actually is the big threat.
yeah,
Knight
knight
e6.
e6 and d8 queen or knight c6
So
and
king
rook
b7,
c6.
king b7, black will play, and then we have to go knight e6.
Yeah. So d4 rook c1 played. He finds it. He finds it. And now Leon only has 50 seconds on the clock. And look at Nepo. He's just so confident about his position now already. And he knows that he's winning. And I think Leon had defeated Yan the last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Yan was not underestimating Leon. He knew that Leon is capable of doing this. And now with just 30 seconds on the clock.
e7, unfortunately, is not a pretty tactic because queen c7, rook c4 runs into rook f1, but queen c7 will also run into knight e6 with a fork on f8 and c7. That's why knight d6 had to be played.
Mhm. And Yan needs to find queen d7 now. That's the winning move.
c7 doesn't do the job, is it? c7, king,
c7 is also actually quite good. King b7.
and knight c6, knight d8 next.
Yeah, that's also winning somewhere. So c7 and queen d7, both moves are winning for white. Wow. By the way, Sashikiran is defeating Hans Niemann.
Hans Niemann with 3 losses in a row?
Very likely. We'll see the finish of this game, but then we can check out that game as Sashikiran might defeat Hans, inflicting his third loss in a row.
Tremendous.
And Harika is also winning. So on the top, the Indian boards did not do so well. Pranav lost. Leon also in a difficult position. But in the bottom half, it feels like we did well as Harika won, Murli won, and Sashikiran might defeat Hans Niemann.
In 1729, Random says, I think Magnus can still win the event, but it depends on whether Vincent and MVL draw the next match.
Exactly. By the way, he goes for c7 and knight c6. And now Leon needs to give up his queen. But he has some chances to hold actually.
Queen c7, knight a5, pawn takes, rook takes. Is that the variation you're hinting at?
Yes, this variation. And if he can somehow get rook e8 and e3, wait a second. Maybe Leon is not losing just yet.
A similar balance like in Vincent and Magnus's game that we could have seen yesterday in one of the lines will happen here if black takes on c7.
20
Any other
seconds,
move?
Leon. He takes it. No. That was the only move. The only move. He finds it. And Jan Nepomniachtchi might have to show his technique actually.
He does have good technique, like we saw in the first round of the candidates against Anish Giri in 2020 back then, when he won with the queen versus rook. We'll see.
Guys,
Knight takes e5.
knight a5 is the only move. And yes, there is one more round today. Today, this tournament will be decided. Today is the final day. This is the 8th round. Actually, we are in the final few moments of the 8th round. And then we just have one more round in about 2 hours, 15 minutes from now. Knight a5, b5 takes king c7. But guys, this can be difficult to win. Because somewhere rook e8 or e3 aa gaya. Suddenly, your queen will be passive. Then we can distract the queen with a4, a3 also.
It's true. Yeah, I agree, Harshit. And there are no checkmating ideas around the black king yet. Our queen is too far away.
He goes queen e6. But Leon has to find rook e8 here, which is not so easy actually. Rook e8, and you can see this is why it's difficult to play with Jan. He's shaking his head, he's moving, and it kind of puts a lot of psychological pressure on you.
But rook e8, queen d5, what is the point? Queen d5, queen c6,
Somehow
and queen
king
into d6.
d7. This is tough.
Ah,
And you
that's the
put your
point.
king to e6, and the point is that b6 you have rook b8,
e7.
rook
Rook
e7
e7.
also fine, but rook b8 also, and rook b7. So this is why Leon has to play rook e8. Oof, this is a tough moment.
Hello Mayur, what do you think? What do you think? Rook e8 आएगा क्या लियोन की तरफ से?
Oh, hi, Mayur. Welcome. Yes, rook e8 is the move that needs to be found.
Just wondering if there are any other moves. Because if there are no other moves, then it is a bit easier to find rook e8.
Rook d8 is possible, but that's losing.
d8.
And 4, 3,
Rook
2,
e8. Rook
1.
e8. Rook d8 played on the board.
Rook d8, but no, this is not good.
Why is it not good? Queen e7, rook d7, b6, king
No, but you can
c6.
just take the pawn now. This is
E3?
losing.
E3?
E3, you take another pawn, and
E2?
this is losing. Sorry?
E2?
E2, queen e7 and queen e2.
Ah.
So that's why the rook had to be on e8. Leon makes a mistake, and Yan does have a winning position now. In general, the rook would have just been much better on e8. Yeah, and he gets up from the chair. He comes back to see that his opponent has played rook d8. And you could see Yan is a bit surprised by this, but I'm sure he's happy to see that his opponent has not played rook to e8. By the way, Aryan Chopra wins against Fedosiev and he now has 6.5 out of 8. Aryan Chopra wins. Wow. Big win for Aryan there with black. And queen d5 played by 1 second. Queen to d5 played. Not the best, but good.
So it's preventing e3 because then we have queen c5 check.
And now he needs to go king d7.
Yeah, he does that. He goes king d7.
Nice. Nice.
The threat is e3 now because earlier with the king on c7, we could give a check on c5 and pick up the pawn on e3. Now white has no check.
Yeah, e3. Also, black might want to go rook b8 at some point.
How is king g1 now, I suppose? Because I want
No,
to bring
rook
my
b8
king.
is the problem. If black gets rook b8, rook b7, black has some sort of a fortress.
Also, the b5 pawn is hanging after rook b8.
So, king d7 actually, and this is getting quite complex again. Yan had to take this pawn. But he goes queen d5 and now king d7 was a good move by Leon. Hans made a comeback. Did he?
Yeah, he's sort of equal. No, he has a better
Oh, he's
position.
better now. Wow. So he somehow managed to trick Sashi and he's now better. Okay. He's better now. And this game is actually the most exciting game between Yan and Leon. "40 seconds on Leon's clock. So stressful. But he needs to, just calm down and play one move at a time. One good move at a time.
Isn't it white's turn to play?
Yes.
And white is concerned about rook b8 and e3. Two threats in black from black now. So
Yeah,
let's see.
He goes b6.
b6, a very natural move to consider.
Mistake.
You want to take the a5 pawn and you also want to save the b6 pawn because b6 rook b8 के बाद b6 आ नहीं रही थी, whereas अभी b6 के बाद rook b8 को हम queen into a5 खेल के हमारा b6 pawn बचा सकते हैं.
Yeah. The best move here is a4. Rook b8 is also decent. b6. Okay, very logical move by Yan, of course. Rook b8 played. And Soumya, this has very good drawing chances. Queen a5, but king c6.
King c6? Are you
Yeah,
serious?
you just win the pawn on b6. And he plays it. Wow. This gives Leon very decent drawing chances, guys. A draw with Yan in such a tough position would be excellent.
Queen
And
c3 would be met with king b6, Harshit, or you go back. Yeah, you have to take on b6.
Yeah, you just take this pawn.
Queen f6, and I take on h6.
You take here e3 and then e2, rook e8. This pawn is very dangerous. Gives queen a4 check. And if you take queen d7 is a problem. So king c5 is somehow the best move. But that's too tough.
Oh, come on. King c5. I'm sure king b6 is the move that you want to play in this position.
Yes,
King b6.
but he has not played it yet. And he's thinking about king c5. He might play it. Leon is after all, an exceptionally strong player. And
Yes, king c5
goes,
might be played.
wow. Best move found by Leon. What a player. And by the way, we have Jan Christoph Duda defeating Murzin, also moving on to 6.5 out of 8. So then this game actually becomes very important for Leon to hold. So good here by, yes, Hans is winning. But guys, this game is so exciting because Leon has 45 seconds, and just imagine the calmness, the composure with which he's playing, because King B6 is so typical. I
Queen
mean, so natural, but then Queen D7. And now King C5, there is Queen C7. So he goes King C5 directly to want to take with the Rook, Queen check, and King C6 back.
I
Queen
queen
C3 check.
e3 check. But
Okay, now you
does
should take.
this allow king b6 because you don't have queen d7 anymore? That's the difference, right?
Exactly. So now you have to take, and he takes it.
Queen f6. So the variation we were discussing might happen on the board.
Exactly. Queen F6 played, and now King C6. Followed by Rook E8. And
King
Leon
c6.
is holding.
If you go to c5, then whenever I take on h6, I can take on g5 with a check. That's why you don't want to keep your king on the same file as the g5 pawn.
Very
Same
well
rank.
explained. Exactly. That was the reason why King C6 was indeed played by Leon. I have been extremely impressed by how he has been defending. Whatever happens in this game, I think the way Leon defended here has just been extremely good.
For sure. And there is Mayur in the chat saying, hello, just remembered that the candidates has a rest day. Glad to see chess here and the two of you commentating. Thank you,
So
Mayur.
thank
So
you.
nice of you.
Yes, guys, this tournament is super exciting, especially now because it's the final two rounds. Vincent and MVL are in the lead with 7 out of 8, and Magnus is right there chasing them. He's there waiting for the next game because Magnus is on 6.5 out of 8.
He goes king to h2, Harshit, getting
King
out of his
G1.
rook b1. Oh, he goes king g1, bringing the king nearer.
Hmm. But why is this a draw? Let's say E3, you
Queen
just lose
c3
a
check.
pawn. But even this, like Rook E8 and Rook E6,
Ah, it's a fortress. Okay.
maybe black can hold this position actually after King G1. But I think it's much more natural and logical to go Rook E8. Or Rook B1 check. I think Rook B1 check is very logical. But
He
no, then
goes,
King
he
F2.
plays something.
He goes Rook E8. Yes, very logical move.
Okay. So queen h6 will be met with e3. King
Mhm.
f1 has to be played. I don't
And
see any other
then
move.
Rook E5. Because now if Queen F6, we have Rook F5. And we have some moves, I guess. So let's see King F2
Yes.
played.
King f2.
And E3 check. King E2. What now? Leon. Leon needs to go King D5 and Rook E5 now.
King
And then
d5.
Knight B5. Ooh. Whoa.
King
He
d5.
plays it.
Oh my God.
Brilliant game, yeah. Leon down a queen, but he's managing to create a fortress.
Queen to h6. Actually, might be more than a fortress. If he gets a check on d4 or c3, black could push for a win.
Yeah, suddenly Queen
Because
F6, Rook E5.
imagine a check on d4 with the knight. King has to move back to e1, pawn push to e2, and then we are threatening knight c2 check and king e1. pawn to e1. So this could get dangerous for white if he is not too careful.
Yeah, if white over pushes, Leon can even get some chances here. A draw would be a great hold for Leon from that difficult position that he had. And look at Jan's face.
Talking to himself. He's calculating, huh?
No, he's cursing to himself. Yeah, I don't think he can win anymore. Because guys, the point is like after a move like h4, knight f5, you cannot take the pawn on g5 because of knight d4 check and you lose the queen. The queen h7 played, but now just knight f5.
He's going to give a perpetual, I guess, after knight f5 with queen to d7 and or b7.
Leon does have 2 minutes on his clock, so he can, take a few seconds of thought in this position because knight b5 or knight f5, both options exist. The good thing for Leon is that both of them are drawing.
I would prefer knight b5, Harshit, because it controls the c7 square. So queen gives a check on d7, let's say, and we go king c5.
Yeah.
And now there is no check on c7.
Yeah, I think knight b5 makes sense. I also think there is some merit to knight f5 because it stops the white queen from coming to d3. So both moves having its pros and cons, and he goes knight b5 with the idea of going knight d4 check and e2. Guys, final moments from the game of Jan Nepomniachtchi and Leon Mendonça. Vincent Keymer drew his game. Magnus won. Magnus is on 6.5 out of 8. And after this game ends in a draw, Leon will be on 6.
By the way, Nodirbek versus Gatakamsky is also a completely equal endgame with 2 pawns and bishop for Kata and 2 pawns and knight for Nodirbek. So that will also be a draw.
Yes, that game will end in a draw for sure. By the way, Hans won his game and Levon was playing against Artur Yusupov. What an exciting match that was, but it was won by Levon Aronian. By the way, he played queen d7 check, king c5, and I think we can just follow the live game now because I think I think that Jan will give a perpetual now.
Thank you, readlog2804, who says kudos to us for covering 2 rounds a day. Thank you, and thank you for joining in the chat as well.
Thanks a
Queen
lot.
d7. Kudos to the players for playing 2 rounds a day as well.
Yes. And for Leon, especially for being pitted against Jan, who's such a dangerous player, and to keep his composure and look at this. Leon now looks away as he knows he has survived the worst. And this game will now be ending in a draw. And with black, he's going to draw, which means the final game he will play with white. And look at Jan. He's just so angry at himself. He's like, why did I not win this game that I was supposed to win?
It seemed like he did everything right. You know, he got those pawns in on b5 and c6. He got that tactic in with rook c1. He got a queen. What else do you need to win? But Leon says, no, I will defend this staunchly. By the way, Duda has also won his game on the 4th board against Murzin Volodya. So Duda also on 6.5 now.
Yeah, there are quite a few people on 6.5, but only 2 players on 7, Vincent and Maxim. And yeah, Jan, I think, is trying to see if he has any final tricks left in the game, but I don't think so.
Basically, we'll have 4 players on 6.5 at the end of this round. Aryan Chopra, uh, Duda Jan Christoph, Magnus Carlsen, and actually
Sarana.
that's it. And Sarana, yes, Sarana on 6.5.
This
Everyone
is
else will be on 6 at the most, and Vincent and MVL on 7. He made a move. What is it?
He played G3, Knight D4, King D3. Whoa!
King
He's playing for a
D3.
win.
King D3. The idea is, let's show this. E2, Queen C4 check, King
No, Queen,
D6.
there's a better move. Queen D7 check. And you'll win the knight and the rook.
And the rook, yes.
So King D3 is so tricky. Oh man. Knight
Okay.
back to C6. Yes. Very calm and collected. No need to try to take any risks. He just comes back with the knight, and the knight on C6 protects the rook on E5. The king protects the knight. So black is very solid here. And now E2 is a threat.
Queen G8 might be played. Queen G8 with the idea King C5, Queen to C4. But black might just go back King D6.
Yeah, and then no check, and suddenly E2 is still a big threat. If
Is
king
there
E2 does.
increment? Yes, there is a 30-second increment. So not a big danger of losing on time. King E2 played, Knight to D4 check,
And they're
King
repeating.
D3.
They're repeating King D3,
Leon
and Leon
shaking his
comes
head
back.
there.
Knight C6 and draw. Handshake. Very nice save by Leon. And Jan is like, yeah, I was just, it should have been very good for me.
I think he's discussing Queen H6, actually. The line that you showed, instead of playing B6, taking the queen side pawns, because he pointed out on the king side.
Yeah, maybe he was discussing uh like one of the lines where he could have taken this pawn. And
Hmm.
yes, this was actually winning for him, because if E3 takes E2, very important, but white has Queen E7 check and wins the pawn.
Yeah, the board is not on the screen, but yes, I think a lot of our chat followed the game.
Yeah, and
Jan a bit annoyed by himself there.
yeah, but Leon should definitely get a pat on his back for defending this difficult position against Jan. Leon actually is on a very good roll in the last 5 rounds. Defeated Lagarde, he drew Jan Christoph and Jan Nepomniachtchi, and now he has put himself in contention for the top spots going into the final round. Guys, just to sum up what happened today, Vincent played a fantastic game, couldn't convert, he drew. So Vincent is on 7. Maxim won his game against Buddy Pranav. So Maxim is on the joint lead with Vincent. 4 players on 6.5, and everything will be decided in the last round. Maxim Vasher versus Vincent Keymer coming up in 2 hours. सौम्या आज का दिन क्रेजी मजा आ रहा है.
Badhiya, and especially our Indian boys, Leon Mendonça holding his own against Ian Nepomniachtchi and Aryan Chopra defeating Fedosiev. So he's in contention for a top finish because he has moved to 6.5 out of 8. So you never know which way the final round is going to go, who will finish in the top 3. It's all up for grabs. I'm so excited. आज candidates का भी rest day है. So guys, do join us for the last round of the Grenke Freestyle Open at 7:45 IST. See you.
See you all.